Hello, this is the President. Hello, this is the President of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. Receive them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. They're telling you about monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We are busily scurrying around the studio right now. Ron is anyway. He's busy trying to get someone on the phone. I got to talk to this woman if it's the last. And if you know this woman, I want to talk to her. Okay, so we have this whole show planned. Bob Larson will be coming on later on in the program. And he's going to talk about, well, what else? He's an exorcist. He's a, born-again Christian evangelical exorcist. Not a Catholic one, but an evangelical one, right? And so we're talking about, the show. We planned the show in advance because, we thought it would be an interesting take on some of the realities of Christmas from the past and how the darkest times of the year would bring about some of the scariest encounters for people, right? And so I'm talking with Ron, we're discussing, and somebody sends me a video. It's a woman in Washington State. Her name is Lori Simmons.
Yakima.
She's from Yakima, Washington. Okay, she's from Yakima, Washington. Just here in the Northwest. And she's talking to a friend on video chat. And she's trying out her new app that records video calls. She's talking, and I thought it was weird at first because I was watching the video. She's talking about drinking coffee. She's just having a conversation with herself and peers, right? And then all of a sudden behind her, you see something that looks like a kid. That's what I thought at first. I thought I saw it's one of her kids in the background, right? And she doesn't know. She doesn't sense anything. So obviously it wasn't, or unless she's normally thinking the kid's in there, she's not going to pay attention to it, whatever. So, she talks about how she wants to buy a new bed. She talks about how she drank coffee and it threw her into a panic attack. I mean, it's just typical, conversation, okay? And so you look behind her and there's this silhouette behind her. And, if you look carefully at the silhouette, it kind of, if you blink, you see this thing has some sort of a demonic face on it. It's kind of bizarre. And, so you're just seeing this thing wondering, what the hell am I watching? What is this thing behind? Is this the gingerbread man? Is this what, is this some weird, I mean, it's just creepy. It's like this thing's behind her, you know what it is? And I just started laughing because I'm like going, she doesn't even know it's there. She doesn't even know that this thing is behind her, creeping up behind her. And all of a sudden, her friend, I guess, it cuts to her friend saying, is there someone in the house with you? And she says, no. I just go, oh my God. I just thought, okay, it could be anything, right? I mean, really. It could be anything. But just the idea and the look she had on her cell phone when her friend says to her, you know, are you alone in your house? And she says, no, I'm not. I mean, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm alone. What are you talking about? So, according to the article that I'm reading about this appearance, okay, that when she looked back at the call, she looked back to what happened, she said it brought her to tears because she was so terrified about what was behind her. And I thought to myself, wow, this is either a shadow person or, you know, some sort of a spirit, some sort of a, I mean, it looked like your typical homunculus or maybe even an alien. I don't know. But, no one can actually, I mean, I posted the video on my Facebook page. I posted on my Facebook page because I've been noticing the comments about this. And they're saying things like they don't know what it could be. They're saying shadow people, demonic entity, alien, what else could it be but evil children, of course, the black-eyed children, grays, alien grays, maybe a ghost. But, you know, so far the people who have made comments about, well, come on, this could be something totally different, you know, I mean, people have paranormal experiences and, you know, you gotta, like the other day, I mean, I was able to snap a cool picture of a UFO. I posted it on my Facebook page. And I was so proud of myself because I got like, you know, I got two different angles. One was, you know, far away where what I was doing is I was coming home from the doctor. I was going to take a bus and a train to work. So I'm out near the bus stop and I'm looking in these clearing of these trees. There was this thing. It looked like a bright whatever in the sky. It looked cylindrical or whatever it was. And I thought I was seeing things. I thought, wait a minute. And this is what I did. So I took a breath. I went, okay. And I talked to myself through. I said, grab your phone. I grabbed my phone and this thing was moving towards me and I snapped a picture. And then it got closer and I snapped two more pictures. And as it got closer, I thought, oh, I'm going to get a really good clear shot. And it went right between the trees and behind a building and I couldn't get it. I couldn't get around the building fast enough. I couldn't get anywhere fast enough to get this picture. And I was so proud of myself. Because I got a really good picture of a UFO. A really good picture of a UFO. Don't know what it is. I put it up on my Facebook page and, you know, people are still wondering what it was. I don't know what it was. But it was a good catch. I even showed the bus driver. I got on the bus and go, look at this, man. I just got a UFO. And he's like, oh, are you kidding me? Where? And I go up. I showed him right over there. And he said, oh my gosh, that's an amazing UFO picture. So when you get something like that, right? When you get something like that and you're like excited that you have proof, whether it's a recording or a video or something, you know, and when it's that troubling and that chilling, you can't help but laugh. I mean, really, you can't help but laugh out loud at some of the scary things that, you know, people encounter, some of the things that happen to them. So if anybody knows Lori Simmons in Yakima, Washington, give her a call and say that Clyde Lewis wants to talk to her about the video because the video gave me the creeps. And Ron is trying to find her as well, trying to get a hold of her so that maybe we can get her on and talk about, you know, what happened with her because, you know, we've all had experiences. I've had experiences. Paranormal experiences, I mean, a lot of, they did a poll and they found that a lot of Americans, you know, they do believe in paranormal experiences. They don't necessarily know how to describe them. We've had shows about the black-eyed children. We had that situation that happened here in Portland with the kids in the park. And afterwards it was weird because we put up the picture and people were criticizing it. And then when somebody had pointed out that there was an entity above the kids and we put that up, people were like astonished. I was blown away because you can see there was an entity above in the air above the children that appeared to them. And we had it on, we have it in a picture. And when you snap something like that, when you have something that's that detailed or that amazing, I'm sure people will say there's got to be a logical explanation. Yeah, but then when, you try to figure out what this logical explanation is, and it sounds so absurd, like we were talking about maybe the kids were all smoking pot and that was a big cloud formation that they were, vaping pot or something. I don't know. But man, I'll tell you, the winter is the time for paranormal experiences. I've always found that out, that when people are indoors more than not, they have a lot of experiences happening in their homes. Mostly, that's when they find out that their house is haunted. It's usually during the holidays. Either it's grandma or grandpa coming back from the dead to tell the family they're okay, or something else is, triggering some spiritual activity. I mean, the whole idea of Santa Claus is a supernatural event. The whole idea of Krampus, the horned assistant to Santa is certainly something based on paranormal events that happened anciently, long time ago, in antiquity. I mean, the stories of the horned one, the stories of Baal, the stories of child sacrifice, and all these things have happened during the times of the winter. This is why, Christmas has come along, and it's kind of like the Clorox that is cleaning and bleaching out all the evil that happens, at the beginning of October into January, and not until after February we start seeing a break in everything, only to prepare us for a spring that's usually bloody and horrifying. I mean, it's like the planet has this uncanny knack for having certain times of the year where stuff, goes bizarre. If it's not March, April, and May, it's October, November, and December. Like, it's not just about cover. The 3 months out of the year where we have this transition, where people start seeing demons and darkness and all sorts of things. And then, of course, in the spring, we see a lot of death and murder and mayhem and war. But yeah, Lori Simmons, I'm calling out to you tonight. We already put out a request to talk to you about the demon in your video. It just made me laugh out loud because it was so terrifying. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've had my chill for the day. Seeing that thing behind that woman, I don't understand. It's just a strange world. It's just a peculiar world, and we're here to give you the lowdown on how peculiar the world can get. I'll tell you what. Anyway, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Let's go down to Paul in Maine. Hi, Paul. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi.
Hey. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I had a question that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you had ever been either at your home or some other place or a hotel room, all completely alone, no one else there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, someone calls out your name and keeps doing it.
Yeah, I've had that happen. I've had that happen a lot of times. Even I have an EVP recorded of somebody calling my name. Listen to this. Somebody called out Clyde right there. You heard it.
Yep.
Pretty creepy. Yeah, that was an EVP. I heard Clyde. Came through the radio at me. That's really weird. It's just all of a sudden I hear Clyde coming through the radio to me. It's really bizarre. I have other ones too, somewhere where we were on the radio talking with someone, and through the phone you could hear this ghostly voice go, Clyde Lewis. It was just creepy to hear it.
Yeah. And it's happened to me numerous times, and I tell you, after a while, it gets a little spooky.
Of course. Why would you think they'd be calling out to you? Was it somebody you recognized, a voice you recognized, or was it just some strange voice?
To tell you the truth, there was one time that the voice, I thought I recognized who it was. it was a lady's voice, and she was an aunt of mine who had been dead for quite a few years.
And so, did you call back out to see if there would be any other, see if there was any other reply or anything that could be said?
Yes, I did, and I got nothing. And then she spoke again and said that, and the only other thing that was added to just speaking my name was, I would like to ask you something, and then that was it. And it's never happened since.
Interesting. Well, you could probably get out a recorder and call out to whatever or whomever it was and see if they'll try and contact you again. You play back, you listen to recorders, see if a voice comes over.
That's true. I was thinking about that.
You should do that, I think. I think it'd be, to be honest, this is the best time of year to do it. Christmas, the winter time, best time to try and contact those who are trying to contact you, because it's usually some sort of family member or someone who wants to make contact with you at Christmas time.
That's right. I believe. Yeah.
So if you want to know when the biggest and best times to, get a hold of dead relatives is at Christmas time. You can think about them. They can come to you in dreams. It's that time of the year, really. It really is. So I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you.
You better take care. Yeah, it's funny because I was when I came in today, I did an interview on another radio show. They were actually pre-recording the show for the Christmas special. So I had to come in to the office early today. I was asked to do an interview on another talk show and give my opinions on Christmas. And, they want some, good mythologies and good stories about Christmas, that they wanted to hear. And, of course, a lot of topics of Christmas that are seldom talked about. And, of course, they wanted me to talk about Santa Claus, and I was obliged to talk about Santa Claus because, I really have a soft spot for Santa. Even though I'm 54 years old, I still have a soft spot for Santa. And I also was happy to discuss the little-known fact that Christmas is not only a time to talk about gift-giving and Jesus, but at one time, the winter holidays were set aside for ghosts, telling ghost stories, having ghosts appear in the house, tales of shadow entities arriving, or even entities of light, and they were there to, scare the children into behaving, or to come in and teach a lesson, or to send a message. That's the whole basis for A Christmas Carol. In fact, I think it was last weekend, I was with my friend Lucian, and he and his wife had made a simple little dinner and invited me to stay and watch A Christmas Carol. Jim Carrey was the guy who was in it, and it was a Disneyfication of A Christmas Carol, and it was really well done animation, kind of like the Polar Express animation was, and it was a lot creepier in that motif that I've ever seen, and the way they put it together was it was like a horror film. And I think that's the way it should be. I think that the ghost should be terrifying. Even the Ghost of Christmas Present had a little bit of sort of a terrifying feel to him. All the laughing and he even at one point in that version kind of died. He had a heart attack and died in front of Scrooge. Just really creepy stuff. And that's because, back in the time of Charles Dickens and in those periods of time, Christmas was celebrated differently. It was still, a very sacred holiday, especially a religious holiday on December 25th. But there were also other things that went along with it. Scary ghost stories, demonic possession, people giving into what is known as winter madness. All this stuff happens at this time of the year because we're all enclosed in the cold and it's just an amazing time to talk about some scary ghost stories and things like that. 888-673-3700. Back with more Ground Zero. Don't go away. I'm Clyde Lewis. That's what you get when you get creative in the production department. It's just some amazing work. Annie Martinez and myself, we just have fun when we do these production pieces. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. The dark times. It's funny, people always tend to think that Halloween, and it is, it's set aside for that, but people say Halloween is a satanic holiday where we all, no, the reason why Halloween is where it is because it's supposed to be where Christmas is. Same with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, Halloween, and Christmas were once the same thing. Okay? Because it was all about Saturnalia. It was all about, the lords of the air coming over and wreaking havoc on everyone in the darkness. And so it was about demons. It was about, winter spirits. It was about sprites. It was about fairy folk and gnomes. And of course that evolved into Krampus and Santa and Belsnickel, and I can just go down the list of all these strange guys who would show up at Christmas time. They were all pretty much entities. They were strange entities they gave names to. And there was also another thing called the Wild Hunt. Well, we'll get into that too, where the night demons would be seen on horses riding through town. And people, when they saw them, they would end up either dying or someone near them would die. So, it's pretty, and of course Thanksgiving is the feast of Saturnalia. And then of course Christmas came along and they put that in the calendar so that we would, worship Jesus on that day, and we would think of the light because it represents the light returning. So, there's a lot of, as we get, further and further into winter, things get weirder and weirder and weirder. I've always noticed that. It's not Halloween. It's even beyond Halloween. Let's go to, is it Michelle? Let's go to Michelle in Alabama. Hi, Michelle. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hi. Well, I actually had a question for you about, possibly spirits, maybe demons. Do you believe that, aside from the normal, them seeing each other in houses and things like that, if they can attach to a person and carry over to different places, like you leave a home and that particular entity comes with you, and if you do believe that, do you believe that there's a reason behind it, or some people believe that maybe they just kind of do it for fun and then move on and things like that?
Well, yes, there are entities that can attach themselves to you, and that's something that happens if you expose yourself to that sort of thing, or if you happen to be, in a situation where you're sick or you're on drugs or something. There are a number of names we give these entities. One would be something called the Dweller on the Threshold, which is sort of a alien entity, not necessarily extraterrestrial alien entity, but an alien meaning foreign entity that does wait in the wings for its moment to appear to you, or wait in the wings for its moment to display that it's with you. So you have that. You have psychopomps, and psychopomps are entities that wait for you to die. And when they wait for you to die, they wait for you to die, and then they escort you into heaven or they escort you into hell. So, and then we have guardian angels, of course, and other entities that we claim that hover around us. But yes, if you can get a guardian angel to watch over you, you certainly can have a number of demons or some sort of demonic entity or even a spirit entity that attaches itself to you. And you may not know you have it. It's just that you all of a sudden find yourself in situations where, you just feel a dark feeling about you. And it can bring about depression and anxiety and a number of things. And of course we treat those things scientifically, but there's always this, undefined line between what is, a spiritual crisis and a mental crisis. So, it's hard to tell. You have to at least go to someone who is a church authority or somebody who is into, psychoanalysis just to figure out exactly what's happening with you.
Do you believe that maybe that those can be gotten rid of, or do you believe that once something like that has a hold of you that you're just kind of stuck with it? No, you're not stuck with it because there are certain things that we've done. Exorcisms, of course. People ask for exorcisms. If it's something as simple as something attached to you and it's not creating you any
abnormalities like, levitating or throwing up or doing all those things that you see in The Exorcist, you can, through prayer and fasting, have it removed. You can, ritualize it in natural ways like, sage rubs and you can hire, people to come in, whether it be shaman or a priest or somebody who is a religious or spiritual authority that has been known to be able to cleanse you. There's something called anointing of oil, where they anoint you with oil and they bless and consecrate you to cleanse you of anything that may be impure in your soul, that may be, occupying the same space as your soul, that may be causing you trouble. There are just a lot of ways that it can be done because, Jesus did that. Jesus was able to administer to the sick and to the dying, and he was also able to cast out demons. And so the whole idea of casting out demons goes all the way back to the time of Jesus, all the way back to the Mesopotamian eras and the ancient eras, where they were casting out demons or casting out evil spirits for, thousands of years.
Right. Well, I appreciate you taking my call.
Sure. Yeah, and if that helped at all, if you're speaking for a friend or speaking for yourself, is this for you or is it for someone you know?
It's for me. I was getting some information. I can't tell if it's just the location that I'm in or if it's myself. I've always kind of felt, I don't know what the word is, different, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it always seemed wherever I went, certain reoccurring things happened that I couldn't explain.
Okay, Michelle, what I want to do is I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to have my producer, Ron, get your number. And when Bob Larson comes on the program, and he's an exorcist, and he's done, this type of stuff, seeking out and maybe finding, entities in people or what have you. I want you to call him and tell him about maybe this spirit that's attached to you. Maybe he knows something or feels something about it.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Michelle, is I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to get your number, and then we will call you. And if you'd like to go on with Bob, we'll ask Bob if he could help you on the air tonight, because he does that. He's had a lot of his callers sometimes call in and they feel that they have a spirit attached to them or a spirit demon attached to them, and he brings them out. It's just amazing how he does it. So just hold the phone, and I'll get Ron to get your phone number. And we'll call you back when we have Bob Larson on the program. Let's go to Darren in Missouri. Hi, Darren. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. Thanks for having me on. Similar to Michelle, about 9 years ago, 2009, I was doing genealogy, and I was going to cemeteries and taking photos of headstones of family members and putting them on, like Find a Grave, and things like that, and putting things like that on, Ancestry or whatever. But during that time, I started, and I've always been open to, ghosts and paranormal, but I never had any experience that, led me to believe one way or the other, but I was open to it. But I did have this one experience, I don't remember the time frame, but it happened over a period of time around 2009, where I started noticing like those, I didn't even know about shadow people, but I did, at the time, I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know what it was, but I started noticing things, crossing through doorways in the corner of my eye. And I first see it and thought, well, maybe it's just kind of like, maybe I'm tired, or maybe it's the sun, or maybe a car drove by and it reflected light somehow in the room. But it increased over time. Now, at the time, my 4-year-old daughter, I was a single dad, so it was just her and I, and it increased to the point where it actually, I confronted it. I was just tired of it happening, so confronted it, and it escalated, and it eventually showed itself to where I saw, and it wasn't like a shadow person, it was like a shadow, like a blob, and it was lightning fast, and it came in the living room and swirled around, and she was actually asleep on the couch, and it woke her up, and then it disappeared, and then I was just, and I didn't really see it to that extent anymore after that, but I did go to my local parish and kind of explained it to, our priest, and he just came there and blessed the home and everything like that. But I didn't have that same level of experience with it. But I just often thought maybe something followed us, home from the cemetery, or maybe it was in that house.
That happened to me. That happened to me once. I was doing an investigation in a cemetery, trying to get EVP, and I had some ghosts go through me. In fact, there were pictures of them going through me. It's amazing that one was coming up to tap one of the other guys on the shoulder. One came up through my legs and came up out of my chest. And it was odd because I came home and I felt sick to my stomach after that. And so I felt as though I had to get a blessing because we told the entities to stay. We said, you can't go with us. Please don't go with us. And I guess one of them, wanted to come with us. So, I don't know if it was attached to me, but certainly it was there because we were seeing things, being toppled over. And we were in this, this cabin. It was raining outside, and we were staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning trying to figure out what was going on with this ghost or whatever it was. And, you can't sleep when these things are active. You just can't because...
If I have one question real quick.
Yeah, sure, quick.
The fact that I confronted it and it escalated, what do you think caused that? I mean, what is that?
It didn't. Well, it just depends. It depends on whether or not. It depends on what you said to it. It depends on what attitude it takes. I mean, entities have the same personalities as human beings. And if they don't like you, they'll tell you. And if they don't want to do something, they'll tell you that as well. So it may have been the way you asked a question, or it may have been frustrated in trying to get you the information it wants to get you. There are many reasons why they do that, and they could be downright evil. That's another thing that you have to put into consideration as well. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Back when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, and it focused primarily on the supernatural and how it plays a part in taking an old hateful miser like Ebenezer Scrooge and exorcising his demons in order to have love in his heart for others on Christmas Day. Dickens commented about the story and how it certainly was a story of exorcism at the hands of a terrifying ghost or a number of ghosts. They basically used the bending of time and space to show Ebenezer that all of the bad decisions in his life were being forged like a chain, and that this chain he carried was dragging him down to hell. Dickens wrote, I have endeavored in this ghostly little book to raise the ghost of an idea which shall not put my readers out of humor with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt their houses pleasantly, and no one wish to lay it. So he wrote it as a ghost story that basically is about exorcising those evil thoughts and those angry feelings and demons inside of you. See, A Christmas Carol is one of those scary ghost stories that was ahead of its time. Who would have thought that a Christmas story would include ghosts, exorcism, time travel, all those things, in order to make a point about having to change in order to see progress in your life? Scrooge was shown his past, his present, and a foreboding future where he would lie cold and unloved in a pauper's grave. Scrooge's first ghost, Jacob Marley, who was Scrooge's deceased business partner, basically brings the subject forward, and what he's trying to tell him is there is higher consciousness. He warns Scrooge that success in business is not enough. Man was my business, he says. Man was my business. Charity, mercy, tolerance, forbearance, and benevolence, they were all my business. And yet he had this chain that he forged in life. So you look at the changes that emerge with the practice of quantum mechanics, quantum techniques. It all improves our ordinary lives, bring about higher consciousness if we just want to believe that we make a difference with what we do. For example, we become courageous, we enjoy life and have a satisfying relationship, we become compassionate, spiritual beings, which are characteristics of higher consciousness. Something that we're supposed to strive to at Christmas time. And so you open your mind up to magic and miracles, and Christmas is there to raise your consciousness. And when I talk about magic, I'm talking about how the season and magical thinking and magical feeling and that feeling of being recharged, it's all interchangeable with quantum philosophy. I mean, that's of course if you're afraid that your character will be judged harshly for engaging in magical thinking, but it's not necessarily magical thinking when you say to yourself, well, I can manifest a good Christmas, I can manifest good things. As adults, I mean, we're certainly aware of the flaws of the idea of Santa Claus, right? We say, oh yeah, okay, Santa Claus. Young children, though, they accept it quite readily. And the older children, well, they get the less gullible, they're the less gullible, and they like to they like to play along, but they need some rigorous proofs of existence for anything. See, all of that, Santa Claus and all the other entities associated with the holiday are there to teach us a lesson, are there to show us that there is a lot of darkness before the light, and that the light is worth waiting for. So yes, Christmas is a time for the appearance of these beings, these entities. And they're finding that a lot more people have these experiences from October through January, these experiences of the paranormal. So tonight we open the phones to that, and Bob Larson's coming up to talk about this and other things. 888-673-3700. It's 888-673-3700. I'm Clegg Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. Well, tonight started off strange with the video of that woman in Yakima, Washington, and the little demon or whatever it is that's in her house that, she didn't know what it was. They were trying out a new app for recording FaceTime. And apparently, while they were recording it, something showed up in their phone conversation. Her girlfriend asked her about how, she saw something and whether or not she was at home alone or whatever. She said she was home alone. Someone was seen, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's just, typical, because a lot of people don't know this, but winter is one of those times where I think the devil has his due. And I know that people tend to point to Halloween and say, well, Halloween is a demonic holiday. Well, it's not that Halloween's a demonic holiday. It's just that from the times of the ancients until now, it was always the darkness that spurned all kinds of talk of demons, or all kinds of talk of possessions, and what they call winter madness. And that's why earlier I was talking about Ebenezer Scrooge. I was talking about Charles Dickens and how he created the Dickens Christmas Carol. And it was basically about 3 ghosts, or actually 4 ghosts, counting Jacob Marley, that showed up to Ebenezer Scrooge to exorcise him of his demons. And those demons were, making him bitter and angry, and they were showing him the past, present, and future of what would happen, that he dies in a pauper's grave. And that was enough to shake him. And it's funny because here we have a story that was written centuries ago that has long lasted, and about time travel and ghosts and demons and all this stuff. And every year, the reason why I'm talking about this is because I said earlier today I was called in to be on a talk show, and someone else's talk show, and they asked me about the mythologies of Christmas and about I said, well, of course the season is Jesus, and that's what it's all about, but there are plenty of other mythologies surrounding the holiday. And I was talking about how that as adults we're aware of Santa Claus, but we know the flaws of logic with the idea of a little guy that a big man that goes from door to door at night, or goes down the chimney or whatever. But when you hear of these characters like Santa Claus and others, you know that Santa Claus was a saint forged from the exposure of old cultures to darkness. I mean, the darkness of the winter months would bring with it sickness and death, and the people needed to rally around something that would give them light. And in the middle of all their worship, of Jesus and everything else, there still was this threat of Old Scratch knocking at the door to take the loved ones away, the children, the elderly. So every year, I take time, to talk about a number of the different fairy folk and the strange stuff of Christmas, and of course Santa's horned counterpart named Krampus. And in my radio interview today, I unapologetically brought up Krampus and how this dark figure of Christmas legend has made its way from Europe to the United States as a symbol of Christmas indulgence. And basically, when you have a menacing demon-like figure like that, what it does is it shows you that there is a dark side. And that dark side, of course, is the dark side where people who normally would, find Christmas to be a good time, of course, Jesus and presents and trees and all that, they look at it as a time of despair. They look at it as a time of darkness, and dark entities show up, and shadow people and demons and possessions. In fact, there was a story that was just released a couple of weeks ago. I think it was in the Atlantic again. I mean, the Atlantic and Forbes are now taking on these paranormal topics. I don't know why they're doing it, but they are. And they were saying something to the effect that there are more exorcisms around Christmas time. There are more people who have to deal with the devil or deal with the evil, at Christmas time. And it just reminded me of that old song, it's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for roasting and caroling out in the snow. Scary ghost stories and talks of the glories of Christmas's long time ago. Why scary ghost stories? Because in the old days, that's what you did when you were in the house alone in the dark. I mean, you heard right. Caroling and scary ghost stories, yes, all been a part of the old-time Christmas charm for many years before America turned it into Hallmark card boxes and bows. So all of the things we talk about that deal with the dark side of Christmas, or the fact that people get caught up in a lot of the 7 deadly sins, we have to understand what the true meaning of Christmas is. We have to understand how, how all of these dark entities of the season showed up, and they showed up because people lost their way. They lost their view of what Christmas really stood for and what it meant. Tonight we've decided to bring on a man who he hasn't been on the show in a while, but we love having him on, Reverend Bob Larson. He is the world's foremost expert on cults, the occult, supernatural. He has ministered in more than 100 countries and appeared on numerous network and TV radio shows. Bob has been featured in many major publications throughout the world and is the president of the highly acclaimed online international school of exorcism with hundreds of alumni in scores of nations. Bob is the author of 36 books translated into more than a dozen languages, including Larson's Book of Spiritual Warfare, Larson's Book of World Religions, Demon-Proofing Prayers, Curse-Breaking, Jezebel, Dealing with Demons, and 4 fictional novels. So right now, we're going to go to Bob Larson. Glad to have him on the program. Let's go to Bob now. Hi, Bob. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi there, Clyde. Very happy to be with you. It's been too long since I was with you, so thanks for having me back.
And last time you were here, you were a major hit, and I didn't think we had you on that long, but a lot of people were saying they were clamoring to hear from you and to hear about it. And I think it's a good time to have you on, especially when, like I said earlier today, I was on a talk show and they were talking to me about Christmas, and they were talking to me about, what are some of the things about Christmas we don't know? And I said, well, recently I've been reading statistics about how a lot more people, I guess this year, or it's been probably building up, are feeling despair. And they're also, a lot more people are calling upon, religious groups, organizations, and the clergy to bring about deliverance, type of ritual, or perhaps even exorcisms. I know that's up your alley. Have you been getting a lot of increased calls for this type of activity?
My schedule is so full with exorcisms 365 days a year. It's really difficult to say there's any particular time of the year. Obviously around Halloween, because there's that sensitivity where people are thinking more about demons, darkness, and the things of negativity. But I haven't noticed that. But you're really going to make me think twice about it and take a look at my schedule and see if maybe there aren't more this time of year.
Well, the thing that's interesting about it, what's interesting about it is that statistically speaking, both Halloween, Christmas, and Thanksgiving were holidays that were separated because anciently the whole idea of the Feast of Saturnalia and the Feast of the winter solstice and all that were things, primarily dealing in the darkness, and it was the Christmas season that brought about the light. It was kind of like the Clorox bleach that cleaned it all out, because you turned your mind towards Jesus and mind towards the birth of the Christ child, and that kind of helped people get through the winter. Otherwise, they had to actually subject themselves to winter sickness, the elderly dying, also children dying. And so this was most definitely, in the old days, a very scary time of year.
Well, we have this other side of Santa. You better watch out, you better not pout, etc. And he knows if you've been good or bad. So there's that sense of, you better be good at Christmas. But as you know, in other cultures, I travel a lot in Europe and Eastern Europe, and over there, they have a little bit different take. There's La Befana in Italy, the Christmas witch, and then as you said, Krampus, which is very popular. And then there's the Nordic incarnations, that sort of thing. So there's this idea that there is a flip side to Christmas, and in spite of all that it represents of Jesus Christ, his birth and coming into the world and bringing light to the world, there's the darkness. There's something else out there. Beware of it. And so there is that tension at this time of year. We don't think about it so much in America as they do where they have these long-standing traditions in Europe and Eastern Europe.
Well, but I think you're realizing, I don't know if you know this, but it seems that Krampus is now coming over from Europe. The only thing is that his representation here in the United States isn't the same as how he's being represented in Europe. I mean, in Europe, he's kind of like the bad cop versus Santa good cop, and he's the guy that you got to watch out for, and you better not cry for, and all this. But the truth of the matter is, in America, though, he's turning into a satanic icon.
Well, he's become a party animal in America.
Pretty much.
That's the idea. But that's because Americans traditionally have not had as much of a visceral sense of the reality of good and evil as other parts of the world have. And again, particularly Europe and Eastern Europe, there are long traditions of people believing in demons and that sort of thing. The hardest country in the world for me to do exorcisms in and to get people to accept those realities so they get some help is in North America. Because, essentially we haven't had those old world pagan gods and sinister tales of the past that the rest of the world has. We've been sort of a Judeo-Christian culture.
Sure.
We've been that way for 400 years or so. We don't think as much in those terms as old world people do.
But we're seeing the breakaway now. Younger people and millennials are falling away from traditional religion, and it just seems as though, with that in mind, we're having a lot more. We're seeing a lot more. A lot of people falling away to witchcraft. We're seeing a lot of people who are joining what are known as theistic Satanist groups. And we'll talk more about that. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. You have any questions for Bob? This is the most wonderful time of the year, they tell us, but it's also got its dark side. And, some of this darkness can be washed away with just drawing upon some of the collective memory we have of how beautiful Christmas can be, and the spirit of giving and love, and the Christ child and what the Christ child represents. But of course, that does not take away the fact that there are people who are sad, lonely, and a lot of them end up wanting an exorcism, or they want to be rid of the demons in their lives. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. One of those remarkable Christmas films I saw, 2 weekends ago, Possession of Hannah Grace, which my wife and I are horror movie fans, so we wanted to go see it. And while the film, lacks a lot of substance, it certainly brings home the idea that there is an evil in the world, and it can possess, and it can attach itself to things. And we've had people call in and ask questions about attachments, asking questions about how they've been seeing an increase in anger that's inappropriate anger and outrage. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. It's true about this Christmas, about 2018 in general. We have had probably more outrage being expressed by groups in this country than any other time that I can remember. What do you think is pushing this outrage in this country?
Well, I think there's political outrage. There's frustration of all kinds in terms of a socioeconomic situation. But I look at things as an exorcist from the spiritual dimension. Mm-hmm. What's really going on here? Mm-hmm. And I think there's this clash between two cultural viewpoints, one that is essentially secularistic, naturalistic, and tries to reduce everything to behaviorism and facts and science. But then you also have, as I think a lot of your audience think, this other sort of out-of-the-box viewpoint, the outline viewpoint, that there is more than we can see and what the senses know, and that there is good and then there is evil. Now, we may have 100 different opinions about what that is, all the way from extreme paranormalism to classic historic Orthodox Christianity and Judaism, but somewhere in between. I think people are they're at a boiling point now.
Sure.
And a lot of people come to me. Here's what happens. People see me, for example, on our YouTube channel. We've got about 18 million viewers there now. And they look at that, and they watch these exorcisms that I do. And the common thing I hear them say is, that's me. That person exploding over there. That person boiling over. That person who is raging. You got 5 people hanging on to them, and they're screaming and yelling. That can be me. I see myself in that. And so, frankly, what we find is a lot of this stuff has gone on in the family dynamics for years. is just boiling over the surface now. But, people are, in some ways, becoming more open to the idea of exorcism, the supernatural, deliverance prayers, reaching out to religion for answers, and that's kind of where I stand.
Now, we can go all the way back to the time during the Kavanaugh hearings where there are witches that were throwing curses at Kavanaugh. There are witches that have been throwing curses at people like Donald Trump. And it was interesting because I had 2 magicians on my program. We're talking about dark arts magicians. And they said that this type of activity being done in such a way would bring harm to children and harm to this country. And they were right, because when they were doing those types of rituals, I mean, we had the pipe bomb scares, we had a number of other things that happened, we had the shootings and all these things happening that went down afterwards, and people were hurt. And I don't think a lot of these witches understand what they're doing when they call upon these powers.
Well, a lot of them is just, it's a game. There are the dark ones who understand what they're doing, and they're out to get revenge or spells or to affect the behavior of individuals. But to the others, it's kind of a countercultural game. Mm-hmm. But you cannot tap into the basic premise of seeking revenge or seeking evil or seeking to destroy another person. I remember many years ago, I was interviewed with Larry King, and I was off against Gavin and Yvonne Frost. I'm not even sure they're around anymore, but they were one of the people who popularized witchcraft in America. Mm-hmm. And they were constantly saying, well, we only do good, we only do good, we only do good. And then they let it slip in the middle of the interview that on the way over to the studio, the taxi driver had ticked them off, and so when they got out of the cab, they quickly did a revenge spell upon him. Well, the question I asked was, who gives you the right to do that? Just because somebody else upset you, who gives you the right to think that you can get even? And this is the sort of thing that needs somebody to take a gun, walk into a church, a shopping mall, whatever, and think they have the right to blow people away.
Sure. I mean, and people don't understand just how powerful a spell is, or how powerful a prayer disguised or a curse disguised as a prayer. That's something a lot of people don't understand, is that there are prayers that can be made that are so negative that they can be interpreted as curses, and they're being sent out. I was concerned a lot. I remember in the inaugural of President Trump, there was a rabbi that certainly sounded like that he was cursing a number of people in his words, and I was thinking, is anybody really paying attention to what he's saying? And I was just overwhelmed by what I was hearing, thinking to myself, I don't know if people can pick up on how what can be used in good faith can also be used to double back as a curse. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. It is Christmas time, but it can be a time of darkness, and it can be a time for many of those entities that show up in the room, or maybe some things attaching to us that we don't want, that we need to have them taken from us. Exorcism. It's exorcismus in a way. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. More with Bob Larson coming up. 888-673-3700. We'll be back. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. Bob Larson, my guest tonight. The mind is a powerful tool, and we can conclude that there are all sorts of realities behind us simply imploding, as what is in front of us is the reality we know just beyond our feet. This is great if the world and the esoteric were simple things to explain to children, and there are some children that are smarter than others. Unfortunately, one cannot test the multiverse and the idea of a multiverse or something bizarre happening in the ether at Christmas time. So, you just throw it to Santa. Santa, take over. Krampus, take over. But as I've stated before, there are times when things get caught in the safety net of reality. And when they do, we explain it away as a miracle, anomaly, or just plain magic. And then, of course, we have these manifestations of waking nightmares. And already this month, we've had an increase of people asking for exorcisms, appearances of shadowy figures. We had the black-eyed kids a while back. I mean, these are the things that have been appearing. These are the things that have been seen. People are asking for exorcisms, and Bob Larson, who is an exorcist on the program tonight, talking with him about these things. And, I'm sure you get word not just of the fact that there are demon possessions, or there are at least people who feel they're possessed by demons, but you must also get reports of perhaps even entities or some other paranormal phenomena appearing in people's rooms or around them. Have you had any stories about that?
Oh, like countless. I mean, almost every day somebody comes to me and tells me these types of things, and it's a wide range. They see orbs, or they see little spots, or they see shadow figures, things out of the corner of their eyes. They feel presences. And then it moves into things like, I feel like something's crawling inside me, or little bugs are on my flesh, or little things are biting at me. Mm-hmm. And then it ends up even more horrifically, of course, in sexual assaults and physical assaults. It's very common. People tell me, I was just walking somewhere, and the next thing I know, I was pushed down the stairs, or I was knocked off balance, and there's nobody around. Plus the standardized things, opening of doors, when nobody is there, and the footsteps in the hallway. And, you don't have to be an exorcist to hear these stories too many times and say, the whole world's not psychotic, the whole world's not paranoid. You can't have half the population experiencing these things and explaining it away as over-vivid imaginations. And, of course, in my world, very often it is the activity of demons and evil spirits and various other entities that are out there that are trying to torment people. It is real. There are too many highly credible people. Look, I have people come to me who are educated, people with PhDs, psychiatrists, doctors, lawyers, professional people who have been educated to be skeptical and have a rational explanation for everything. Mm-hmm. Yet they seek out an exorcist because they feel tormented by these things.
Do you think that an entire nation could be possessed by some malignancy, whether it be a spiritual malignancy or even a demonic malignancy? Do you think that, because we were talking earlier about all the outrage and all the anger and all the division. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. When I was younger and growing up, I knew it was building, and I knew that there were a number of people who were angry, but then we have the media exploiting all that anger, exploiting all that division, all the people fighting against one another. We see the riots in the streets. We see the riots in France. We see the uprisings all over the world. Do you think these uprisings are rebellion because they've been held down for so long, or do you think the rebellion is being created by perhaps supernatural forces such as Satan or some other demonic entity that has created a malignancy on this planet?
Well, first of all, the Bible in Ephesians chapter 6 speaks of the spiritual warfare we fight not against flesh and blood, but principalities against powers, against the rulers of darkness of the age in which we live. So, in our international school of exorcism, we teach courses that we call the hierarchy of evil. We break this down in practical terms and in biblical terms of these various levels of demonization. So, demons and evil spirits can control a body. They can control a building. They can have influence over an area, and yes, over a country. And, there's a lot of responsibility for elected leaders to govern people in a decent, God-fearing, and reasonable way, rather than exploiting the masses. And I think the masses, we're seeing it rising up today of people who have just fed up. They are sick of a handful of elitists who think they know what's best for everybody else. And so there's this collective rage that's out there. But Satan is all too ready to be present to exploit that collective rage. Let's just take the people in France right now. I can understand the outrage of these people and the legitimacy of their claims. But then it goes over the edge. It goes into destructive behavior. It goes into burning buildings and terrorizing and threatening people's lives. It gets out of hand. Sure. The Bible says that the Antichrist is the lawless one. That's what the Bible calls him. Mm-hmm. The one who has no regard for law and order. So that's where you have it. It comes from evil.
So we're talking about the lawless one. We're talking about the Antichrist, and we're talking about what we're seeing. I think it was Paul, if I recall, in the Bible, who said that there would be a falling away, and there'd be great falling away and apostasy before the coming of Jesus, the second coming, if you will. Mm-hmm. Could this be the falling away? Could this be the apostasy? Like I said, we're seeing people leaving churches in droves. We're finding young people, devoting their time to witchcraft, secularism, breaking away from religion, finding a spirituality outside that of organized religion. is it bad to say, hey, I'm divorcing myself from organized religion because, well, you hear the examples from the Catholic Church, the pedophilia, the sin, the robbing of virtue, all these things are becoming commonplace, and they're almost like they're a normality when 30 or 40 years ago, they weren't normal, or they were kept in the shadows. Now things are being recovered, memories are being found. We're almost like in a fit of satanic panic again.
We are. And it's a different kind of satanic panic, and it's not the kind of thing that we knew back in the 80s that was exploited by people like Arnaldo. This is a new kind of satanic panic, and this one is unfortunately in some ways coming from the organized church itself. And people are terrorized to a point of insecurity. But remember, this is how the Antichrist, according to the Bible, operates. He is the lawless one. So he incites the lawlessness through the outrage, but then he's the fixer. He's the guy who comes along, and at the price of totalitarianism, ultimate totalitarianism, the complete surrendering of everything that you have to him, that he promises order, and he promises that he is going to bring sense to all of it. And that's what we got to watch out for. We have to watch out for those voices that start the riot and then say, I'll take care of the riot. And that's the spiritual trick that the devil plays.
Certainly, we're seeing that a lot, and I also see a time, and I've said this before, and I always use this term because I think it applies. I think the devil, or whatever malignancy there is over us, it certainly has its hand on us, and it's keeping us under its thumb, because a lot of people use victimhood as currency now. It's the idea that everybody's a victim, everybody has an agenda, everybody has some fragmented cause they want to get behind, and this creates a problem, because it's no more about right or left or right or wrong. It's about all these shades of gray, and also all of these righteous, indignant human beings that continually are fighting for a place or to be recognized. And an example of this is, I never thought I would see the day, and I'm not criticizing this in any way because I want to be objective, but hey, when was the last time you heard that Baphomet would be in the public square with children gathered around the demon right next to the Ten Commandments? I mean, what kind of world are we living in now?
Well, as you may know, I mean, they've even put a symbol of Baphomet in the form of a sculpture with a hand and a snake holding an apple in the State House of the state of Illinois. It's right there in the rotunda. Yeah. And what kind of a world is that? I mean, well,
I'll tell you this, Bob. I mean, when it comes to religion and how the First Amendment guarantees us right to freedom of religion. I didn't have as much of a problem as putting Baphomet in the public square next to the Ten Commandments as I do a group of Satanists saying, well, we want a place next to the Christmas tree in the nativity scene, because Satanism has nothing to do with Jesus. Nothing at all to do with Jesus.
Yes, exactly. So they've got the menorah, they got the creche, they got the Christmas tree, and they got Lucifer.
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing. I can see the menorah wanting to fight to be next to a nativity scene, because, of course, it's another religious holiday. But Satanists don't recognize Jesus, nor do they recognize and they don't even recognize Satan. I mean, maybe the new satanic temple does, and they're theistic Satanists, and maybe they worship an entity that they consider to be a tangible Dark Lord God. But most of the and I talk with a lot of different people of different faiths, even those that are witches and those who are Satanists, and they see it as a joke.
Well, it is a joke, but it's not a joke to the devil. And that's the thing. I mean, these are like the stormtroopers. They come in, they stir up things, and then when the dust settles, the devil is really only after the handful that he can get who become disturbed enough to take all of that very seriously.
Right.
And then what we end up with is a paradigm shift in reality where people begin to think, well, if there is darkness that can be manipulated for my benefit, I'm going to do it. I have a lot of people who will come to me. They have demons. They have become demonized. Why? And they lost a lover. And so they go to the witch doctor or the voodoo priest, and he says, I can get them back. Let's do a love spell. But of course, what happens, the love spell boomerangs back on them, and guess what? The evil they intended for someone else, and of course, this is what Christ taught. That what you do unto others is going to come back to you, so then they end up getting the demons they wanted to send to somebody else.
Right. The idea that, if you decide you want to do what they call it imprecation, is where you call down curses from those who pass judgments. whether it be curses brought down from God or curses brought from below in the devil, these imprecations are utilized and they hide. They're kind of like hidden meaning imprecations where you're thinking you're listening to something that is inspired by God or even taken from the Bible, but it seems to be quoted in such a way where it's twisted. And I remember I was taught a very valuable lesson when I was younger. I was told the devil can quote scripture. You just got to pay attention to what's being said. I mean, when Jesus was being tempted, he certainly was able to quote scripture to Jesus, and Jesus said, "Be gone," for he knew that the devil could quote such things and twist them to fit the needs of what he wanted, the selfishness that he brought about. And that's why the selflessness of Jesus, the selflessness of what Christmas should be, is important to discuss. But as I said, we find ourselves for some reason in this time where the darkness, the malignancy, the outrage, and the anger is turning people and making them realize that they want the light and they have a hard time grabbing it, so they need an exorcist or they need something to snap them out of this. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Back with more Ground Zero. Don't go away. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I want to ask before we get to the top of the hour about botched exorcisms. There seem to be a lot of stories in the news about horrific botched exorcisms where people, I guess, do this on their own and they end up killing the person who is allegedly possessed by a demon. And in fact, in this new movie, The Possession of Hannah Grace, the father kills, or at least attempts to kill, the girl who's possessed. Is this because they can't get a demon out unless they kill, or do you think they botch these things having some sort of psychosis? I mean, what's your take on that?
I think there are several categories. One, it is a psychosis, it's a mental illness, it's a mental health problem, and they can't make it go away, and so they use ever harsher methods because they're convinced it is the devil, and they're not willing to recognize that it's behavioral. Secondly, there is a school of thought. In some religious circles, it's extreme, but there have been a lot of these cases, particularly of Africans in the UK, who think they can beat the devil out of people, and so they torture the people. They pour Clorox down their throats. They burn them. They cut them. So they think that by inflicting pain on the body, they will make the devil leave. And of course, that's just not true. The devil loves that. It only empowers the demons. And then there's a third category of well-meaning people who just do crazy things. I mean, they starve the person, or they get them and they sequester them, and they don't let them use the bathroom. They don't feed them, and they think by all of that they're going to somehow aesthetically drive out the devil. But a true exorcism places the welfare, the mental health, the physical health, the emotional and spiritual health of the person above all else. A true exorcism is an expression of God's love for this victim, not the torment of the victim. Some people just have this way upside down.
Yeah, because many people are familiar with the Annalisa Michelle case where the priest actually, where she died after the exorcism, and many people have, seen this as something that was horrible. I mean, the priests eventually served their jail time, but now she's become a martyr for this sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, we've been hearing a lot about these exorcisms gone bad, but then we have the church, the Catholic Church actually promoting the fact that they're hiring more exorcists. They have an army of exorcists, that are available now. And I'm wondering, why the army of exorcists? And then I got to reading that a lot of these exorcisms, or a lot of the people who are possessed, have a history of sexual abuse in their lives. And
that is the case.
Yeah, and I was thinking that, maybe that this is why a lot of the other priests have decided to arm themselves against those who would be pedophilic priests and those who are abused under the watch of these priests. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. Fascinating topic about exorcism, the dark side of Christmas in a lot of ways, because this seems to be the month, or it has been a pretty trying, dark winter with black-eyed children appearing to people, entities appearing to people, now exorcisms, of course, on the rise again, and a whole lot of other stuff too. We're going to talk with Bob Larson about that, and we're going to get to your calls if you have any questions for Bob or anything else for that matter. Bob also, he can actually deliver on the air if you need any kind of advice or help. If you feel that you have a demon in you or you have something going on with you, Bob can help you on the air tonight. 888-673-3700. It's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. Last week, a lot of the world actually celebrated the feast of St. Nicholas. And in Catholicism, St. Nicholas is the patron saint of children. His saint's day falls in early December, which helps strengthen his association with the Yuletide season. And many European cultures welcome the idea of a patron saint that would bring cheer to the people, because there was a time in the ancient cultures where the winter solstice was a time of terror. It was especially hard on the children, as the winter cold snap would take the children in their sleep, also the elderly. There was also the risk of people in earlier times developing the winter sickness, which was not a typical cold or flu, but a type of madness that many thought was the mark of the devil. What I mean by this is that they became ravenous. They actually resorted to cannibalism in a lot of respects. It's just a dark time. Despair and sadness would have many people in its grip during the winter months, and the times were such that there were a lot of people out there that would succumb to demonic possession. In the old European legends, they spoke of the night demons, and how they had to be chased out by the church in order to celebrate Christmas in a manner that would be considered reverent and dignified. This tale of the night demons is known by many names. One is the Wild Chase. The other is the Swiss Selig-Volk, or the March of the Dead Folks. The French Chasse Infernale. Much of this is described, we talk about a lot of these things are from the Norse mythologies. The Wild Hunt, for example, or the Chasse Infernale, was believed to be an army or assembly of dead souls who appear at certain times, usually at midnight, chasing through the night with noise, dogs, horses, and then they would go away at the cry of the rooster. They would vanish. Seeing the Wild Hunt was thought to presage some catastrophe such as war or plague, or at best, the death of one who witnessed it. People encountering the hunt might also become possessed by demons and condemned to the underworld. Many who have been possessed and avoided being dragged to hell made claims that while under a trance they were possessed by biblical figures like Herod, Cain, Gabriel, or Satan himself. And then, of course, there's the Milky Way's position in its yearly run. It also had spiritual meaning and great importance at that time. Its characteristic is the home of dead souls seems to have been global and was expressed in many ways as a passage or a pathway for souls. It was a conduit for the dead, a stream that appeared to be closer to earth, and it was certainly the basis for the thinning of the veil and the idea that souls of the dead would walk the earth and were able to possess the bodies of the sick and the afflicted. Now, I know there are a lot of people that may be lost on how I like to bring up strange and paranormal metaphors, but I know it may seem like an oddity, but I've read many things about the outside influences that tend to have their way when the cold air intensifies and we tend to remain indoors. So let us realize that the story of Santa is an age-old story that children unconsciously repeat. St. Nicholas is part of this. Krampus is part of this. The Wild Hunt or the Infernal Chase is part of this. Many people don't know this, but in the earlier times, Santa would swoop down riding upon the Milky Stars, or a Dark Lord would sweep down riding upon the Milky Stars and finding his way into homes through the chimney or through mirrors. And that's the beginning of the Santa legend. The reigning power of winter months was the darkness. As the night seemed long, the shadows tend to play tricks on the mind. Of course, we see the flickering lights and all of this. I was really taken when I saw that Ebenezer Scrooge film, and I saw, Ebenezer with a candle, and I thought, how would it be to be in a cold old house and have the candle flicker, and then you have the ghosts appear to you to exorcise the demons that are holding you back. It's an amazing time. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero to comment on some of this stuff that we're talking about tonight. And as I said before, it's always nice to know that Christmas had to be brought to this time. I mean, regardless of when you wonder about when Jesus was born, whether it be in the spring or the fall or whenever, Christmas had to be brought at this time because of the fact that so many people were hardened in the darkness in the earlier times, and they were seeing demons. They were seeing their people in their neighborhoods possessed or having what is known as the winter sickness, which led to other horrible things. And I think that it was a pretty good idea to put Christmas at this time of year, actually. So, Bob, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still right here. Right here.
So, I mean...
I'm listening. Your commentary is so fascinating, it's got me enthralled listening to it.
Well, I hope that, because it's an amazing time, and I always think to myself that, like I say, Christmas was brought into this time for this very reason, because I think they needed, it's like a song, we need a little Christmas right this very minute. We need a little Christ about this time, because everybody feels the darkness surrounding them. And some people get the visits from the darker entities, and of course we have all the other mythological entities that show up as well, like Santa and Krampus and all these others, but they're only a part of that very thing, the part of the manifestation or the part of the thought form, but it had to be Jesus to come in and cleanse it all. I mean, would you agree with me?
I agree with you completely. And we must remember that a lot of these places that you're citing, these myths, legends, and all this sort of thing, were from climes that had a very northern latitude.
Yes.
And they had a relatively short period of light during the day from a quite literal sense. And, especially when you get up into the Nordic regions, they may have had only 4 or 5 hours at most of light in a single day. So, they talked about cabin fever and people just kind of losing their minds because of the confinements. And this all plays into the same general motif, but I think we have to be careful, and we must remember that, first of all, the devil is always at work all the time. But
sure.
The devil is unlike God. God is omnipotent. God's power is always the same, everywhere, all the time. The devil is not. He's limited. He's a created being. And as such an evil creature, he has to find certain times. He's got kind of like a law of conservation of his demonic energy power. He can only do so many things and be in so many places. He's not omnipresent either. So he has to focus at certain times, seasons, and circumstances in which he then puts out his energies in ways he would not have otherwise. And I think you have very well targeted. This is a time and a season when he does that. And of course, we know that Christ was likely not born at this time of the year, more likely in the spring, but you can see why these cultures adopted that as an antidote. But we have to do more than just think about a baby in a creche. We have to think about a risen Lord and Savior who is powerful, who defeated Satan with the temptation. And demons, the Bible tells us, must bow at the name of Jesus Christ, and they fear and tremble it. So it isn't just about Santa bringing good cheer. It's about Jesus at this time of year bringing hope to people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's antibiotic against Satan for most people. And, and we're dealing with a lot. We're dealing with a lot of demons now too that are being conjured by men. And I've talked about these demons before, like the jinn and others that are older and that are basically conjured. We are making, what are known as homunculi. There are people who are creating these sylph-like entities that can be possessed with a soul. And I talked about the golem last night and saying that, here we are moving into transhumanist ideas where machines are going to be embedded with what we call the synthetic soul. It's not going to be the soul that God gives. It's going to be the soul that mankind has derived from synthetic wires and data and dots and jots and tittles and all those things. And I think that that's what we're seeing as the counterfeit human, and a lot of people say it's mocking God. What do you say to that?
Well, I say all of these things are man playing God and man trying to become greater than God. It's the old lie of Lucifer. I will be like God. I will exalt my throne above that of God. I will be like the Most High. I mean, this is the thing for which he got kicked out of heaven. And mankind hasn't learned much. There needs to be a little bit more humility in the AI community than there is, because these people really think that they're going to create an image that is going to be likened to man and likened to God, and they are going to be the gods themselves dictating this whole thing. It's very scary.
It is scary. I mean, I did a show last night about AlphaGo Zero, which they're saying now is self-learning. It's self-teaching. It's basically teaching itself to be more calculating and strategic like a human would think. It's not quite to the singularity yet, but I have a feeling the singularity is going to happen a lot sooner than they're telling us. And I think that secretly they're fortifying this.
You have to think that Satan's got a plan of evil that he has hatched long ago, and he knows more about this than anybody. And so many people think that they're about to turn the corner, whether it's artificial intelligence or some kind of augmented reality. The devil's already been there, done that, and he's just toying with them to get them to play that game.
Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. We're going to go to the phones. A lot of people calling in tonight want to talk to Bob, asking questions about spirits, attachments, possessions, curses, prayers that are hidden as curses, curses hidden as prayers. All of these things, topics tonight on Ground Zero. And yes, if you feel that something is inside you, something you want to get off your chest to Bob, he'll be here to help you through it. He's done it before on the radio. We played before the moment where Bob exorcised the keeper from a young lady named Rebecca. So I think it's Rebecca, if I remember. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. Bob Larson's with us tonight on Ground Zero. We go to Brandon calling in from Washington. Hi, Brandon. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, how you doing, Clyde?
Doing good. You're on with Bob. Go ahead.
Hey, I had a quick question for you guys. I experienced a couple of years ago, well, 2 years ago now, probably 2009, about this same time of year. And I was wondering if you guys had ever seen or experienced an entity or a spirit kind of attaching itself to like an object, more say than a person. So like say a photo or a book of matches.
Mm-hmm. They call that psychometry.
The idea of a spirit attaching itself to an object is part of folklore. It's part of various religious traditions. And yes, even from a Christian viewpoint, they can do that. And it depends what the object is. Sometimes it is a certain kind of object, like in voodoo, like a voodoo doll, for example, or sometimes it may be a cursed object. I even had a gentleman one time who had a number of demonic experiences. It turned out that somebody had actually given him a Bible over which they had done spells to attach to the book itself. So yes, objects can be cursed.
I had a cursed book at one time too. It was actually an old tract called The Mark of the Beast. It was written in the 1900s, and it was given to me on June 6, 2006. I'm not kidding. At a place called Dante's. It was a bar called Dante's. It's okay. A bar called Dante's. It was on June 6, 2006. A book called The Mark of the Beast. It was an old religious tract from the 1900s. I had somebody take a look. It had a black feather in it. Had somebody take a look. They believed that the book was cursed. It had a curse attached to it because it was wrapped in purple silk.
Wow.
The guy sold it to me for $1.
My concern with you, Brandon, is what is happening as a result of this object?
Nothing per se as of now. What kind of happened is me and two of my friends explored this. We were just wandering through the woods near my family's property and came across an old abandoned house that was well over 100 years old. And when we first stepped into the house, there was some homemade, like Ouija boards, and candles, and ashes on the ground, which was strange enough as it was, but we kept wandering through the house and looking around. And we got upstairs, we went up to the upstairs, and we found some old pictures, very old pictures, scattered on the ground, and some just different things, pins, and a couple books of matches. And we looked at the pictures and kind of, touched everything, walked around, and one of my friends that was with me stuck a book of matches in his pocket, and that was that. We went home, and we were sitting there later that night, and we all stayed the night at my house, and sometime in the middle of the night, my friend woke up and lit a cigarette with the book of matches. He pulled the book of matches out and struck one and lit a cigarette, and as soon as he lit it, there was almost like a shadowy figure screaming in his face. I was asleep at the time. The scream was so loud it woke me up, and another friend of ours was laying back kind of off to the side of us and was like paralyzed. Couldn't move, couldn't hardly breathe. I mean, my friend is absolutely not religious at all. After this happened, he literally jumped up and got on his knees and started praying. Everybody swore no one was screaming or making any noise, and the noise this thing made was loud enough it woke me and myself.
Well, it sounds to me like the building itself must have had something nefarious going on inside, so there might have been objects that were used in remote kinds of ways, or just the very fact that it was in a possessed dwelling, a haunted dwelling, and when you took that thing with you, whatever spirits may have been there followed that object that you took, because by taking something from that house, in a way, you were giving the right for them to attach to you as they were attached to the object. So I can see this happening.
Yeah, I just never heard of anything like this before or seen anything, and that was pretty much the only experience I've ever had, but it was enough that it kind of shook me up, and I've always thought about it since then.
Great call, Brandon. Thank you for calling the program.
Thanks, bud.
You bet. Bye-bye. Hey, coming up, Bob, I want to play for the audience, and we played it before on shows, but I think it's a classic example of you at work. It is the Keeper segment. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a well-known segment that you were involved in, where you were on the air, and a young girl called you. I think her name was Rebecca, and she called you looking for deliverance, and immediately a demon showed up on the phone. Tell us a little bit about the background. We got about a minute. Can you tell us about the background of that call?
Well, this particular individual, we learned later, had been part of a satanic cult that actually had ancestral roots going back to the Third Reich. Some very, very diabolical stuff. And she was due to be a human sacrifice, so she claimed, because of this cult, at around the time of Halloween. And so this demon manifested itself to challenge me right on the air live.
I know, it's amazing, and that happens to you a lot when people call the program and they say they have something maybe attached to them, or they have something inside of them, and you have this uncanny knack for bringing them out. It's just, I don't know what it is you do, but you seem to do it. Coming up, we're going to be playing that famous or infamous, whichever you want to call it, I guess you could call it exorcism, or at least bringing out the demon from this young girl. We'll be playing that coming up on Ground Zero, and then more of your phone calls at 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
And they said I was bonding with the universe. And that animal would give me strength to carry out the things that I would need to know when I became of age. And then after it happened, they killed the animal and they poured his blood all over me. And then I just sat there and I kept asking why, and they would never tell me why. They said that the blood covers and protects. That's all they would tell me.
Well, Rebecca, that is a perversion of scriptural truth, because it is the blood of Christ that covers and protects us and forgives us from all sin.
You can help me.
The first thing we can do is pray for you.
Does it hurt?
It doesn't hurt.
Why did they cut myself?
You do not have to cut yourself. In the name of our Father in heaven and His Son, the Lord Jesus, we just pray right now for the peace and comfort of God to come upon Rebecca. We bind all the powers of darkness, and I place the blood of Christ on Rebecca right now. You are bound. And Rebecca is being loosed by the power of Jesus Christ. Don't worry, Rebecca. God is in control. Don't you worry. Who are you? Who are you? The Keeper? You are not the Keeper. You are not the Guardian.
Who am I?
You are subject to Jesus Christ. You who call yourself Keeper, is Jesus Christ Lord? To whom does she belong?
Right now, she belongs to my master.
She will not continue to belong to him.
We'll do everything we can to terminate her.
You can't terminate her.
I'm so scared.
You who call yourself the Keeper, speak to me. In the name of Christ, you speak to me.
What is it?
You you let her go.
Why should I let her go? She belongs to me.
Not forever.
I was sent here to protect her, to guide her, and to lead her.
Jesus Christ came here to die for her.
She has not yet made that choice.
She will make that choice, and you know very well it's a miracle that she called. It's a miracle she called today, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it?
Someone out there was praying for her.
Well, that's your problem. How many more of you are there?
How many people?
How many more of your kind?
There are hundreds.
Well, the hold is being broken.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, and you know very well it is being broken. God did not have her call me by an accident. God would not have thousands of people praying right now. And you know very well that your hold is being broken now.
We will have her on our Hallows Eve.
No, you will not have her on your Hallows Eve. You will not have
ours.
No, she will not be yours forever. She will belong to Jesus Christ.
She, like David, will burn. He's deceived.
Who's David? The David we were talking to a moment ago?
That is Bob Larson. That is the most terrifying moment in radio I've ever heard in my life. I do not, words cannot even express how terrifying that call is. I mean, how did you keep your composure?
It was real. And without divulging inappropriate details, I eventually met up with this woman. And what you heard, I saw in person. The switching back and forth between these different entities and spirits that were in her was absolutely remarkable. It was so rapid, you couldn't keep track of it. It's one of the most dramatic cases of possession that I've ever encountered.
Yeah, I'm completely dumbfounded by this call that happened with you. I play it every once in a while to remind people that, sometimes, these things are very real. I mean, just listening to the tone of the voice, the purring, whatever that was something that I've never heard before a person do. That's something, it sounded like...
It was a cat spirit. It was an animal spirit. Sometimes spirits, lycanthropy, the werewolf thing, and all this sort of thing. There are legends about this, but there are real roots in the world of demonism in which this stuff takes place.
So it was a possession of a familiar. It was a possession of a familiar then, was it not?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And so this was a cat spirit inside her, and there were other animal spirits and growling spirits, and I believe it was like a leopard or a jaguar spirit come forth.
Yeah.
And all this in one single person. But again, without going into all the details, this was a dark evil that had gone actually back into German Nazi times and some secret rituals that they had done to get power.
Sure. I mean, we had Kevin Mattis on, the man who owns the Dybbuk box, and there were many Dybbuks that were put into boxes to be unleashed onto the Nazis. It was the way the Jews fought back against the Nazis. They'd give them boxes, and in them would be Dybbuks. They would possess them. Let's go to Michelle in Alabama. Michelle called earlier. I wanted her to talk with you, Bob. Michelle, go ahead and talk with Bob about what's going on with you.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey, so I had called in earlier, and I didn't really get into what was going on, but basically, I was asking them questions about, they believe that things could kind of attach to you, not necessarily possess you, but just kind of attach, mess with you, sort of, I guess. And the reason I was asking is, I guess probably since I was maybe a teenager, maybe a little bit younger, I've not necessarily seen images. I'm sorry?
Was there a significant event in your life at that particular point that got this thing started?
Not really that I can remember. I honestly just remember being fairly young, teenager-ish, maybe a little younger. I can't really pinpoint an age, but essentially not really images. It's more, it started out with, like, a couple of dreams I would have consistently, like, all the time on the dot. And then I would start waking up, and I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like exactly 3 o'clock every morning.
That's something that I hear very often, and yes, the 3 o'clock bewitching hour is something that there is legitimacy to. It varies time zone to time zone. But let me ask you a couple of really quick questions here. There's so many questions I could ask, but let's try these. Do you know of anybody in your family who has committed any horrible acts of evil that you're aware of? Somebody killed somebody, somebody raped somebody, somebody did something awful?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. And many times people aren't aware, but something happened. Okay. Have you yourself personally ever been involved in some form of witchcraft, the occult, or whatever?
No, sir.
Okay, then the third question I have is, you have experienced any significant trauma in your life? Some really tragic event?
I mean, my father died when I was 16, but that's significant, but I don't know if it would be an extreme traumatic outside of the ordinary.
Can I ask a question? Michelle, I want to ask you.
Sure.
Why would you think? What would you think? How would you even associate that a demon or that a spirit is attached to you? What would be the reason why you would assume this? Because you said dreams at first. What else gives you that indication?
It started out as these dreams. Dreams were very, like, one of the dreams I had, I was murdering somebody, and there's no faces, nothing like that, but it was a very exact, consistent dream.
So you had dreams of murdering someone?
Exactly.
You know who that is? Who you're murdering? Who are you murdering?
No,
okay.
Like, there would never be exact faces, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it would be, I don't know how to explain the feeling exactly, but it was just, when the hair stands up on the back of your neck, and there's nothing there, but you feel it. And I would wake up 3 a.m. I still do it. It's not as often as it used to be, but exactly 3 a.m. I would wake up, and I would just terrified for no reason. Like, sometimes when you have the dreams, and I would just wake up and couldn't move, just scared to death. Nothing there, but I would feel like there was something there.
Michelle, it seems to me that you seem like a very nice woman, and you're not telling me there's anything in your life that has been particularly evil. So why would this be happening to you? Why would a decent person like you have dreams of murdering somebody? That's got to come from somewhere. We can get real Freudian here, but I think it comes either from the memory of an ancestor who did something like that, or for some reason Satan's trying to get you so tormented by this that he breaks you down psychologically and actually believes that at some point he can get you to do that. It may seem far-fetched, but believe me, I've run into cases like that. And you really do need to get some help. And I would encourage you to go to my website, boblarson.org, and look at some of the opportunities that we have to be able to help you. But can I just say a simple prayer for you?
Sure, of course.
Okay. So let me say this. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, if there is any demonic root to this, any evil spirit that has used all of this to attack Michelle, we ask be revealed the cause, the root, the open door that would allow her mind to be tormented in these kind of ways. And I directly confront the spirit of murder. If there's any spirit of murder that's attacking her mind, we resist you for Jesus Christ, the faith and the hope of the church and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And we command that you stop doing what you're doing and you release her from your home. Now, Michelle, let me give you a piece of advice or a couple of things you can do, all right? First of all, if you got a cross or a crucifix, keep it by your bed at night. If you got a Bible, keep it by your bed. Go to a church or go to a Christian or Catholic bookstore, get yourself some holy anointing oil and some holy water, and put it around your bed, put it on your bed before you go to bed at night as you pray. And then, after you've done those things, if it still happens, and it still happens at 3 o'clock, you know something's going on. Okay?
Gotcha. Could I possibly ask you one more question?
Sure.
So I have children, and one of the things that had kind of brought me to calling was more that this has carried on. I thought at first maybe I was just, some places are just, maybe haunted's the best word, but some places just have things, and this kind of thing moved progressively with us, but it had started out with it just being myself, but my kids later on kind of got involved with it, where I started hearing incoherent whispers, I guess is the right word. Like, there wasn't telling me to do anything. It just sounded like it was right up next to my ear. It'd be a very low whisper. But then it got to the point where my children were actually asking me if I called them in the room, or if I said something to them, or things like that. Do you have...
Now, Michelle, as you're saying, the plot thickens, and now we're hearing more things that you're telling us, and we're building a case here for there actually being something paranormal taking place, all right? I don't know how far you are from Atlanta. I'm going to be in Atlanta in January. If there's any way you could get over to see me, check out my website, call my office, let me see if we can get with you when I get into Atlanta and probe this a little more deeply. But you got to deal with this. This isn't just something that you've made up on your own. You sound sufficiently terrified. It's got to be addressed.
Right, I understand.
Thank you, Michelle, for the call. I really appreciate you calling in again.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Bye-bye. We're going to be back with more from Bob Larson right here on Ground Zero. Don't go away. Bob Larson with us tonight on Ground Zero. So glad to have him on board tonight to talk about some of the strange things that happen around this time of year, the winter time. We go to Bob in, I guess, Michigan. Hi, Bob. You're on Ground Zero.
Well, hello.
Hello. Go ahead.
Hey, Clyde.
Hey.
Man, I enjoy your show all the time. I really wanted to ask Bob Larson a couple questions.
Sure.
Did he used to do some seminars in about the 80s?
I did and still do. Yeah, I'm still at it every weekend.
You know, I was about 16 years old and I got saved at one of yours. Man, I felt so good and everything, because I don't understand. I was a teenager, but I did some bad things, and and are you still on TBN or no?
No, I'm not. No, basically, now most
it used to be on, right?
It used to be on there. That I used to be, but
TCT or TBN or whatever.
Yeah, he used to be on that.
But yeah, you used to have the Saturday show.
Mm-hmm. He did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that all you want to know?
Man, that's awesome.
Right.
And, I just got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Because I went through with a friend of mine, and all of a sudden he kind of I don't know if he blacked out or whatever, but his eyes actually turned black. I don't know if you know that's true or not.
Bob, what do you know? What do you know about? Let's ask Bob. What do you know about the black-eyed children? We had an event that happened here locally where a man had died, actually in a park, and later there were a group of kids that gathered around in black hoods, and they were definitely strange. And somebody took photos. There was an entity above them in the clouds or in the fog. It was scary. What do you think about the black-eyed kids? Have you heard of the black-eyed kids, Bob?
I have. But part of that is, sort of an urban legend thing.
Yeah.
These creatures coming at that particular point in life, sort of hitchhiking onto the bodies of these kids. But I think it's a bit more of an urban legend. There is truth to it, though, that some people in possession states do have black eyes. And the eyes dilate and they turn black. They also turn red and other kinds of colors.
Right.
But as to whether or not that's some type of infernal possession plan, no, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, people have seen these things. I know that. I always say, if we can get pictures, but we got pictures of strange kids in hoods at a park after someone had died. It's really remarkable how that all seemed to come together. It was just a weird story altogether. Let's go to Jim in Oregon for Bob. Go ahead. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Clyde. My question was, regarding curses. It sounds like a lot of them are kind of a formal ritualistic prayer, but what if somebody uses something, that's out of the foul mouth thing, like go to H or GDU? I mean, can those things, how serious a curse is that?
Well, those are kind of random curses that people speak in terms of just malevolent intent towards somebody. But normally we think of a curse as being something that comes out as some specific evil deed. It can be a ritual, it can be a ceremony, it can be an act, it can be some serious sexual violation. For example, all these children that we're seeing come out of the situations where they've been abused by the church and so on, they are cursed. They are cursed because a holy person has disregarded their vows and their sanctity and has abused them. And those children, unfortunately, the victims, that they also carry a curse. So is anyone who has an ancestor who has committed some great evil. So I've written a book on curse breaking, which you can get from our website, and I talk in there about how if you know ancestors have committed great acts of evil, you need to renounce their evil deeds, because part of that we're actually learning now through the neurobiological sciences of epigenetics is that you inherit the essential behavior and emotional characteristics of those people. It doesn't mean you're going to kill or rape somebody, but it means you may be tormented, and the demons will push you toward those deeds.
It is certainly hard to shake. Bob, what's your website? Quickly, we're almost out of time.
BobLarson.org. Really simple. BOBLARSON.org.
Thank you, Bob, for being on the program tonight. Such an eye-opening show, and we thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Great show.
Have a good night. We'll be back with more Ground Zero. Listen to GroundZero.com for more. We'll be right back. I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. We've opened a few extra lines tonight because Bob was on the program, so we cleared a few, opened a few, so if you want to get in, had a hard time getting in tonight, want to share your experiences with us, it's an amazing night for sure. I have said that the reigning power of the winter months is darkness. Because the nights seem long and shadows tend to play tricks on the mind. When winter arrives, my mind often turns to stories of magic and how the secret powers use their influence to shape our beliefs. And I know that there are many people who tend to think that magic is all fairy tale parlor exercise. But I'm the kind of guy that I've witnessed folk magic. And I'm willing to believe that the mind is a very powerful tool. And I've had interest in the occult. Doesn't mean I'm a practitioner. Doesn't mean that I dabble. I read about it. I study it. I have read, books by a lot of famous occultists. I know a few. It's something that, once again, like Einstein says, the spooky actions at a distance, best to keep your distance, but I don't mind being close enough to observe. I know a lot of people like to write off this type of stuff and say that it's all fantasy, but there is power in the will. We know this. Curses and prayers have an impact, and there's always that fine line between those who witness the power, who utilize the power, and those who abuse their power and fall into a type of psychosis. It's hard to, at times to determine the stages, and so we must assume that while magic is real, the person who uses it has the potential to abuse it, and when this happens, can either open up something that we weren't planning to, or we can hear the arrival of something, some strange entity, EVP, shadow person, black-eyed children, whatever. I mean, anything that the mind can fathom, it certainly can conjure. It certainly can manifest itself. I mean, we're told that there are no monsters. No real ones, really, right? But a monster is, I guess, it's a matter of how you think. What you observe, what you see, what you, whether it's a shadow out of the corner of your eye, something, I mean, it's overwhelming in times of darkness. I mean, I don't know about you, but I hate it. I hate the fact that at 4:00 in the afternoon the sun goes down. And on the day of the winter solstice, it goes down even earlier, like 3:45 in the afternoon. I mean, that should, create seasonal depression. It's seasonal affective disorder is what they call it. Back then, they didn't know what it was. They thought it was demon possession. I mean, no one is ever going to equate Christmas with demons or possession. I mean, we leave that for Halloween, as Bob said. But yet the old Christmas legends are chock full of all kinds of stories that lend themselves to the darkest of horrors and the threat of the devil working overtime to possess them and committing the 7 deadly sins. I mean, we see the 7 deadly sins every holiday. We see greed at its worst at Christmas. People asking, hoping, or wishing for big expensive gifts. Retailers go to ever more excessive lengths to boost sales. Commercials encouraging even little children to beg for impossible toys. Greed is everywhere this holiday season. Strike one up for greed, one of the 7 deadly sins. Some people can afford some of these things, others can't. And the nice things we see on TV or on the shelves, well, only a few people can afford to them. And so what happens? This encourages a great amount of envy and coveting. I mean, it's a fact of life, but in the Christmas season, it gets rubbed in your face that you can't get a certain thing, or you can't have a certain gift or a certain item. So it's always the have-nots getting, their faces rubbed into what the haves have. And this is where we see the coveting aspects of greed possessing people and driving them to anger, driving them to wrath. Christmas also can bring about the gluttonous among us. I mean, who hasn't gone to a Christmas party and come home drunk or stuffed or both? It happens to be most of us several times in Christmas season we eat, we party. It's true. You gain 20 pounds over the holiday season, both November and December. I hate that idea because I'm trying to lose weight, and sometimes I indulge in things. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I certainly like, chips and dip. I like, eating off the salad plate. I like the turkey, the ham, the stuffing. Love the stuffing. Love the potatoes and gravy. I live off the potatoes and gravy and stuffing alone for the whole damn weekend if I wanted to. And when you look at it from a lesser degree, Christmas feels it feels a lot of sloth, pride, lust, all that. Christmas is the day when people do not go to work. And many take the day to do nothing. Sure, there are others hosting their families' Christmases, but I'm talking about the people who open gifts in the morning and then do nothing else for the rest of the day. Not to mention all those gluttonous people, gluttons sleeping off. I mean, the 7 deadly sins are seen at Christmas time. So much of Christmas is about excess. Showing off with huge ornate Christmas trees, parties, lights, buying expensive gifts to prove you can. I mean, lately I laugh out loud at the news stories of people who wish to protest homes that have so many Christmas lights. I mean, what I'm talking about is lights that you can see from the International Space Station. The other day, I was watching a report. It was on HLN, Headline News. There have been 2 or 3 reports this year. I don't know if you've seen them, where people have just gone overboard with their Christmas lights, right? And you've had, neighborhood meetings where people say these guys need to stop it. Stop putting up the lights, and it causes it's causing people to, it's just they can't sleep. And you know what the guy's reply is? I'm not going to take down the lights because this is religious freedom. It's my religious right to put up Christmas lights. And I think to myself, are you kidding me? Your religious right? Really? This is your religious right. I mean, if you crack open a Bible, I mean, you see that these images of light and trees, all the symbolic bangles and whatever. I mean, pick up a Bible, go to Isaiah 57, and you read about these ancients placing idols on a tree and worshiping the trees. It says, you burn with lust among the oaks and under new spreading trees. You sacrifice your children in the ravines and under the overhanging crags. And if you look at Jeremiah, we can also see that decoration of trees is a custom that happened before Christmas. It says, for the customs of the people is vanity. A tree from the forest is cut down and worked with an axe by the hands of the craftsmen. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with a hammer and nails so that it cannot move. So why were there Christmas trees before Christmas in the Bible? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? So I guess it is a religious right to have an overabundance of vanity and pride, right? I don't know. See, people tend to twist Bible, twist prayer, twist everything at Christmas time to fit their agendas. And that's what's difficult, is trying to understand just what is a curse and what isn't a curse. Let's go to Brett in Michigan. Hi, Brett. You're on Ground Zero.
Great broadcast, Clyde. I was just amazed. on. That one gal from Alabama who called in.
Yeah.
I got to thinking, Clyde, what if she was with her friends at some point flirting with the Ouija board? I remember, maybe you remember too, George Norrie a few years ago on air was supposed to engage in some, I don't know, on-air remote Ouija board operation, and he was advised not to do that, and he backed off.
Yeah.
And people called in describing the fact that they had very, very bizarre, dark experiences after playing with the Ouija board. And I remember one guy mentioning that he extracted it from his girlfriend's mom's house where they were doing all this. And wherever he stuck it, I guess he attempted to burn it.
Yeah.
And it really didn't burn very well. Okay.
No, there are always these horror stories about Ouija boards, and there are people saying, I take exception to Ouija boards. I say about Ouija boards that, hey, if they're used properly, they're not dangerous at all. It's like, look, if you use a gun properly, it's not going to harm you. People play with Ouija boards, they ask it stupid questions, they treat it like a joke, and they shouldn't. You should have respect for the occult. I'm not saying that you should practice it, I'm not saying that you should make it a part of your life, but when you come in contact with something like that, you need to treat it with kid gloves, or at least you need to treat it like you would treat a disease, or like you would treat something that if you get it out of hand like a wild animal, it could attack you. And I think people forget that. And that's what and that's the thing about the powers of the earth. That's the thing about the powers of priesthood and magic, is people who know how to use it, and people who have become practitioners, or those who use these powers, they use them responsibly. If they use them for vengeance or any other chaotic reason, they bring harm upon themselves. And that's why I was talking with Bob about how prayers sometimes can end up being curses instead of prayers, or actions can be considered bad or magically incorrect or something. And I think these are things that people need to take into account, even with the things we do at Christmas time. You know, people say, well, it's harmless if we do this, and they don't know the background of some things like the Yule log, or what it means to burn the Yule, or how before even Christmas was celebrated, a lot of the rituals of Christmas had to do with child sacrifice and all these other things. A lot of people don't know the origins, and I don't think they care to know, but if they were to find out just how things are based on some barbaric things we've done in the past and have been changed, that's important to know, I think.
Clyde, even Malachi Martin, I recall him describing the Vatican being infiltrated by what he said was the smoke of Satan. And you mentioned like a battalion of exorcists emanating from the Vatican.
Right.
And you also cited, and I recall this vividly, after Trump's inauguration, there was I'm sure it must have been a Shabbat Lubavitch rabbi who was first up to give whatever,
right,
you know, what do you call it, invocation, whatever.
He was giving an invocation. It turned out to be an imprecation, which I don't know if it was intentional, but I mean, if you go back, it was taken from Psalm 137, which was an original curse that was put into the psalm, and he read directly from it about and it was about the time when Barack Obama made some sort of a move against Israel, and it just seemed to me that the rabbi used that opportunity for his invocation to make it an imprecation and talk about the daughters of Babylon doomed to destruction. It says this, it says, daughter of Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. Basically saying, putting a curse on the children of whomever persecutes them. So that's what he did at the inauguration. He basically said, doomed are you if you decide to bring down Israel, and your baby shall die being dashed upon the rocks. I mean, that's a pretty powerful curse that he put out there, saying that if anybody does anything to us, we certainly will double back and your children will suffer in the process. It's always the children that suffer. Always.
Right.
Yes.
There's even, consistent with that, Israel Shahak, a big-time Israeli scholar from Hebrew University, big-time truth teller. And in his book, Jewish History, Jewish Religion, The Weight of 3,000 Years, he gets into the satanic side of Orthodox Judaism and all of their satanic doctrinal activities.
I don't know if you can say there's a satanic side to Judaism. I mean, there's a satanic side to Christianity. It's called Satanism, and even then, it's not really Satanism. And when you're dealing with Judaism, you're dealing with all sorts of things that many people don't understand. And so I don't think, when Rabbi Heyer gave his speech, I think he was angry at the fact that Barack Obama had done what he had done with regard to the refugees there, in Israel. And I think that's why he said what he said. I don't believe that Rabbi Heyer at any stretch of the imagination was being satanic in any stretch. I mean, there are things that are said, and when they're said looking back, I mean, that was taken right out of the Bible. That was taken out of the Psalms. So, I mean, there are curses in the Bible, and people need to understand that. So, if you want to point out a satanic side of Israel or a satanic side of Judaism, you need to look no further than the Bible itself in the Old Testament. Because there are plenty of dark things that are talked about in Leviticus, plenty of dark things that are talked about in the Psalms, and of course, Solomon and the Goyish demons of Solomon. I mean, these things are there, and they are there, and if you can find them and you read them, you realize that the Bible itself and some of the old Jewish writings, they have curses in them, and they have things that they use in order to strike a city or create chaos in order to make sure that God's wrath is felt for sin and for dangers and problems that have been foisted against others. And this is something that is very real, and if it's practiced, can certainly become a problem for the world. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. So many things to talk about as the holidays approach. And, of course, it's time for parties. It's time for fun. And we at Ground Zero love to party. We got 2 planned for this month already. One is coming next week. We'll tell you about the other one at the end of the year. It's the end of the year bash we're doing. But the one we're doing this Saturday is going to be a blast. It's I don't know if it's our 4th or our 5th. I mean, we've done a few Krampus parties. I mean, this goes all the way back to doing parties at Dante's, doing parties at the Jack London. Then we moved it to Renner's because we love Multnomah Village. Multnomah Village is haunted, but now Multnomah Village, Renner's, where we had it last year, had burned. It's like the Coin Cottage burned in that area. A lot of fires in the Multnomah Village area. So Renner's is under remodel right now, but we were able to take the Krampus party and move it to another place, the Hawthorne Hideaway, which is at 2221 Southeast Hawthorne. It's 2221 Southeast Hawthorne. It's going to be from 7 to 10, and a whole lot of cool things going on with that. We're going to have, from what I understand, live music. There's going to be live music there. People are going to come in costume. Be sure to come in costume. That's what makes it fun. Come in your Christmas gear, whether it's an elf costume, or maybe you want to dress up as a Christmas ghoul or Christmas goblin. Krampus costumes always welcome. In fact, I heard a rumor that someone has designed a Krampus mask that they want me to display or at least wear at the Krampus party. They're going to overnight it. That's what I hear. So, that's going to be fun. So maybe you'll see a whole new Krampus look this year. And there are plenty of people in Portland I know. So if you know somebody who has an interest in Krampus, when we were at the Jack London, we had like 4 or 5 different Krampus masks to show up. One was cartoony, looked pretty interesting. Another was very, very tribal. It looked like it was something that was taken from the old pagan rituals or the Norse rituals. I don't know. It was amazing. Just come on out and have a lot of fun at our Krampus get-together. We've been doing this so many times, it'd be a shame if people didn't come dressed up or showing us their Krampus masks, or maybe something that would be really cool and Christmassy. In fact, I think, there's so many things going on last year that this year I think it's even going to be better. Remember, it's going to be at the Hawthorne Hideaway, 2221 Southeast Hawthorne. That's 2221 Southeast Hawthorne. I'll be there. We'll see you there as well. Coming up, something happened when Michelle called us. The woman who said that she'd been hearing whispers. Apparently something came over the phone again, some strange paranormal activity. We have callers right now calling in saying they heard something, and people on YouTube, on Facebook. So give us a call and let us know what you heard. We'll be back.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
I'm Clyde Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. You know, strange things happen on the air when you talk about some of the things we talk about here. I have Andy, who is producing the program, and Ron, of course, he just left. But I'm curious because, let me go to the phones. 888-673-3700. Let's go to Ian. So, Ian, you say that you heard something on the air with us. What did you hear?
Hi, Clyde. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay. When you were talking to that lady about 3 or 4 calls ago, and she was talking about waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and she was hearing incoherent whispers.
Michelle.
Right?
Michelle from Alabama. Yeah.
Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle, yes.
Yeah.
You were talking to her.
Yes.
And maybe about 20 seconds before she got off with you, you could hear the word whispers very faintly. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear it connected on this connection, but on my audio stream that I have, like my A100 headset, through my Bluetooth, through my phone that I stream you guys on.
You heard the words whisper, or you heard whispers?
Whispers.
So you heard whispers in general, not necessarily the word whisper.
The word whispers.
Oh,
yeah.
You heard the word whispers. Okay, now here's the deal. Let me tell you what's going on here. So, I've been getting an inordinate amount of emails and an inordinate amount of Facebook. I wish people would call me so I know this is going on, because quite frankly, I didn't hear this. Okay. And so all of a sudden, I mean, I at least, I've counted before I lost count. I counted at least 12 people who have, noticed this. And, I don't know if anybody else, I mean, if you can back up what Ian's saying at 888-673-3700, I'd like to, kind of hear from you, hear what you heard. He says he heard the word whisper. Now, after I got alerted to this, I told my producers to go back and, listen to the calls. And this is something we have to go back into the studio and go to something called the cold feed, because we have a number of, we send out signals so that when people listen to the program, it counts for ratings and all this other stuff. So he had to go back in, dig out the raw feed of this so we could hear what was going on. And I listened to it, and I hear something, but I don't know. I'm going to play it again right now so everybody can listen. Listen to this. What's that?
You can try to boost if you can try to boost like 16 to maybe 22,000. I know a lot of headsets and earphones can't do that, but.
Well, okay, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this for the audience. I'll put you on hold. I'll play this for the audience. And, I'm going to play it, and I'm going to see if we can hear the words, because I heard something, okay? I heard something, but I don't know exactly. Of course, Ian says he heard the words whisper, but listen to this.
That's the best word, but some places just have things, and this kind of thing moved progressively with us, but it had started out with it just being myself, but my kids later on kind of got involved with it, where I started hearing incoherent whispers, I guess is the right word. Like, there wasn't telling me to do anything. It just sounded like it was right up next to my ear. It'd be a very low whisper. But then it got to the point where my children were actually asking me if I called them in the room, or if I said something to them, or things like that. Do you have
now, Michelle, as you're saying, the plot thickens, and now we're hearing more things that you're telling us, and we're building a case here for there actually being something paranormal taking place, all right? I don't know how far you are from Atlanta. I'm going to be in Atlanta in January. If there's any way you could get over to see me, check out my website, call my office, let me see if we can get with you when I get in Atlanta and probe this a little more deeply. But you got to deal with this. This isn't just something that you've made up on your own. You sound sufficiently terrified. It's got to be addressed.
Well, obviously, Ian, our producers in Los Angeles didn't hear it either, because they just went to break. If we would have heard that, I would have said, stop everything, let's listen. But apparently they went right to break, because you hear they rolled the bed. And so when I read that people had heard this, I was wondering where the hell. So I said to my producer to go look. In fact, I got another person who wrote me, I think they tweeted me or something saying that they heard growling when Bob was saying the words Jesus Christ. Did you hear that?
when you were playing back the first one when he was doing the exorcism, yes, I heard.
Well, no, of course during the exorcism. I mean, that was what is supposed to be played because that was a classic bit.
I didn't hear growling.
But somebody said that when he was praying during the prayer, and he said the words Jesus Christ, they heard a growl. And
I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, see, and I don't know if we can find that, but I mean, that's the thing. I didn't hear it. Otherwise, I would have stopped everything and I would have said, wait a minute, let's listen to this, because there have been cases in the past, and I've got some examples I can play for you. There have been cases in the past where people have called Bob and demons have appeared on the phone, or, I mean, Bob seems to have this uncanny knack for bringing them out. And so in that case of Rebecca, the girl, the keeper, and she sounded like she was possessed by a demon or whatever, that's one thing. But then, I didn't hear any of the whispers that, I heard them just now, because everybody's been pointing them out to me. But when I was on the air, I didn't hear them. I didn't hear them at all, and neither did our producer, obviously, because he just went right to, I have a producer in L.A. that runs those beds that take us out to commercial. They run them from Los Angeles. So obviously he didn't hear anything. Otherwise he would have stopped down and said, hey, wait a minute, do you hear something? So it didn't register with them.
I'm getting you from your studio feed.
Right.
So I don't get any delays if anybody uses swear words or anything. So I have your raw feed.
Right. So, people can get raw feeds if they know where to look. They can get a number of things. And so in the raw feed, you did hear the whisper. And you said it was, okay. All right.
It said whispers. It was very, very faint.
Right.
The only thing is, I might put this out there. I have an abnormally high and low frequency range that I can pick up on.
Right.
Audibly. Or orally or whatever.
Orally, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have very sensitive hearing.
Right.
So I may just have been susceptible to it.
Okay. Well,
it might have been something other than that. It could have been, somebody messing around on the second phone line, or
no.
It could have been something.
It would have registered.
I felt compelled to call you.
Well, Ian, it would have registered. I would have seen it. See, because we have the meters and we have everything. So if anything's interfering with a phone call, it would have registered on the air. And we didn't see any register. Okay. None of my producers saw it register, so that's why they went to break. There was nothing. The call, obviously was wrapping up, so whatever it was, it didn't register on our boards, or it registered.
So that's the only reason I've never called you before. I was like, I have to call in today because it was so weird, All
right. Well, Ian, I thank you for bringing it to our attention. There are a number of people that have written, and I thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Take care. I'm going to play that one more time. I want everybody to listen closely. This is something, Ian heard it, a number of people on the internet have heard it, they've written me. If you hear it, or you have something you want to add to this, call 888-673-3700. Let us know what you hear. But apparently she starts talking about whispers. There are what sound like whispers going over the air. We didn't hear them. LA didn't hear them. Nobody heard them. Our producers now are looking to see if during the prayer there was a growl that was heard. If something was if you heard something, we want to hear from you. Listen to this.
That's the best word, but some places just have things, and this kind of thing moved progressively with us, but it had started out with it just being myself, but my kids later on kind of got involved with it, where I started hearing incoherent whispers, I guess is the right word. Like, there wasn't telling me to do anything. It just sounded like it was right up next to my ear. It'd be a very low whisper. But then it got to the point where my children were actually asking me if I called them in the room, or if I said something to them, or things like that. Do you have...
Now, Michelle, as you're saying, the plot thickens, and now we're hearing more things that you're telling us, and we're building a case here for there actually being something paranormal taking place, all right? I don't know how far you are from Atlanta. I'm going to be in Atlanta in January. If there's any way you could get over to see me, check out my website, call my office. Let me see if we can get with you when I get in Atlanta and probe this.
Okay, what I heard was listen to our words. I swear that's what I heard. I heard the whispers saying, listen to our words. I wish there was a way I could rewind it and play it for you, the part where I hear, listen to our words. So someone or something or what have you... Gosh, I'm going to play it one more time. I'm obsessed with that. Hold on, here we go.
But some places just have things, and this kind of thing moved progressively with us, but it had started out with it just being myself, but my kids later on kind of got involved with it, where I started hearing incoherent whispers, I guess is the right word. Like, there wasn't telling me to do anything. It just sounded like it was right up next to my ear. It'd be a very low whisper. But then it got to the point where my children were actually asking me if I called them in the room, or if I said something to them, or things like that. Do you have...
Now, Michelle, as you're saying, the plot thickens, and now we're hearing more things that you're telling us, and we're building a case here for there actually being something paranormal taking place, all right? I don't know how far you are from Atlanta. I'm going to be in Atlanta in January. If there's any way you could get over to see me, check out my website, call my office.
I swear I hear that.
Get with you when I get in Atlanta and probe...
I mean, do you hear listen to our words? I hear that. I hear listen to our words. So she said she heard whispers, and then we listened to our words. And something else, a lot of incoherent stuff, but I swear it was loud. The last part was listen to our words. Okay, I'm creeped out. Let's go to break. 888-673-3700. It's 888. No word on whether or not there was a growl when Bob was doing his prayer. I don't know if you heard it. What did you hear? I want to know what you heard, because like I said, I didn't hear it. This is just new to me. My producers just gave me this, and it wasn't heard in Los Angeles, obviously, because we went to break. Otherwise, I would have said, stop, let's listen to this. I couldn't hear it. So you guys are paying attention, play it back, I hear it. So whatever it was coming over the feed, and it wasn't registering on any of the meters or anything else we have in here. So this is certainly some sort of a paranormal event. Weird thing. 888-673-3700. 888-673-3700. A lot of weird things happening tonight. I'm scared. We'll be back.
Content's the best word, but some places just have things, and this kind of thing moved progressively with us, but it had started out with it just being myself, but my kids later on kind of got involved with it, where I started hearing incoherent whispers, I guess is the right word. Like, there wasn't telling me to do anything. It just sounded like it was right up next to my ear. It'd be a very low whisper. But then it got to the point where my children were actually asking me if I called them in the room, or if I said something to them, or things like that. Do you have...
Now, Michelle, as you're saying, the plot thickens, and now we're hearing more things that you're telling us, and we're building a case here.
Okay, well,
for there actually being something paranormal.
We're listening to it, something bizarre. We had a girl named Michelle call us from Alabama saying that she had a demon attached to her. Bob Larson was on the show, and when she was talking about how, she was hearing whispers and things, we hear some strange whispers going over the air. As I reported earlier, we didn't hear it here on the air here. We didn't see it register. We didn't see anything. My producers obviously didn't hear it because we went right to break without stopping down and saying, what are we hearing? So this went on, and it's almost it's once again another paranormal event. Quite frankly, I'm feeling a little sick to my stomach about it in a way. I don't normally get this way. Something really bad, I think, is there. Something weird. Because if I didn't hear it and none of my producers heard it, and, and someone else had said that they heard a growling going on during the prayer that Bob was giving. I don't know. We haven't been able to detect that yet, or you didn't hear it either? So there's no growling at all, Andy says.
I keep listening. I can't find it.
Okay, it was during the prayer. Somebody said during the words Jesus Christ, nothing. Okay, well, that's good. All right, so there's no growling that we can detect that came over the air. So somebody may be hearing something. I don't know. But the whispers are definitely there. I can hear the whispers, and I don't know. As I said before, it gives you a sick feeling that these spirits are actually there. There've been experiences before. I have a few recordings that I dug up during the break that I want to play for you the next hour that certainly make you wonder about these discarnate beings, these demonic beings, whatever they may be, whether they be ghosts or entities or anything, and how they can, you can hear them, or they speak through people, or you can hear them in phone calls. We played the Bob Larson keeper bit. It was Bob had said that it was a girl that had been brought into a satanic cult, and she was this demon, whatever it was, that entered into her. But, something like this, when it happens to you, on the air, it can make you feel a little uncomfortable and, a little bit, like I said, a little nauseated, a little anxious, feeling a little weird about it. So, we're going to take a break right now and, get your opinions on all this. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673. I'm honestly, feeling a little uneasy about that. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Because if I would have heard it, it's the idea that I didn't hear it and everybody else heard it. And then when we played it back, it was there. It just makes you wonder what the hell's going on. That's all I gotta say. I just feel, what's the word? I just don't like it when I don't have control over what's going on with my show. And if something is trying to, butt in, like a demon or something, and I'm not aware of it and I can't stop it or I can't do it, it just makes you feel, like, you've lost control. And I hope I can bring it all back, to control in the next hour. So, bear with us. Thank you for listening. 888-673-3700. If you have any opinions, about, what we're talking about tonight, we'd love to hear from you. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. You're listening to Ground Zero. I had a discussion with my board op, Dave King, who's in the other room in Master Control. That whole situation with Michelle in Alabama reminds me of... what was it? How many years ago was that? You were the one that brought it to my attention. Weren't you producing this show at the time? Not our show, but the show that some guy named Michael called. What was the name of that show?
Actually, I was here with you. I produced with the show. It's on Sunday night over at gotta say the station's call letters.
Yeah, KPDQ. Right?
Yes, KPDQ.
Yeah.
Hearts of Love. Tom and Debbie Tillman. They have a Sunday night late night show over there for the last 25 years or so, and I worked there.
I had them on the air
in the 90s, and you had them on.
I had them in studio after this happened, but you were the one that turned me on to what happened. What happened? Sure. Tell the story about what happened.
I don't know much about the story except this guy. I forgot the guy's name. Was Michael?
It was Michael.
Michael. Yeah, he was on the air with them, saying that he heard like you had with Michelle tonight, hearing voices, and then something came out. It was coming out of him, though. It was coming out of him. It wasn't something over the phone line. It was actually coming from him. Yeah. A demon, like, was
inside of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they started praying for him.
Yeah.
What the hell is this?
In fact, it got a lot of news, apparently. A lot of people, were like, I think they did a news story on it, and that's why I brought him on the air. I want to play that. And many people are familiar with the show, have heard this before.
You still have it.
I still have it. You gave it to me.
Yeah.
You sent it to me, so you got to listen to this. And I thought it was the most, it was a terrifying, chilling thing to hear this guy. Michael just sounds so innocent. And yet you can hear this demon in the background, like growling or something. I don't know what it is. So we're going to play that right now. Thanks to Dave King for bringing me this. This was a few years ago, and we also had the hosts of this show on, their Christian group. Listen to this. This is Michael on the radio show, and you get to hear in the background some demon that's been pestering him. Listen to this.
Michael, are you, do you have a doctor who is prescribing, different medications to help you in certain areas?
I sure do. I have a good doctor and I do have a good counselor and...
Now do you resist taking those medications sometimes?
No, I just, I have a doctor that's actually taking me off all the medicines.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've been on a lot of them and stuff, and a long time ago I was saved, and I kind of fell into Hinduism, and I repented and stuff, and I'm just experiencing like the Lord kind of casted me away, and
Well, that he doesn't do that to his truly born again children. He says, "I will never leave you or forsake you or cast you away." So. It's important to understand that if you...
Yeah.
In Jesus' name, say that again.
I just would like to rededicate today.
Michael, how much time do you spend reading the Word?
I listen to the Word, on a little MP3 player. I usually listen to one book when I do listen to it, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
Mm-hmm. Do you listen to other parts of the Bible?
I try to, but I'm on Luke right now.
Okay. Well,
Michael, I'd like to, first minute, I'd like to have you not speaking. I'd like to have that Spirit speak again. In Jesus' name. Can you say Jesus Christ is Lord?
Jesus Christ is Lord.
Okay.
Okay.
But I feel, like sometimes a bad spirit, I mean, I've had deliberate...
Yeah, just a minute ago, I heard something that wasn't your voice, Michael. What was that?
I don't know.
Are you sure? Does a voice come out of you sometimes that's not your own?
Around me, but not, I don't know.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I just would like to rededicate to Jesus today, honest, that he can deal with anything.
Yes, he can.
Are you there?
I'm there.
Is there somebody else?
Is there anyone else there, Michael?
No, but I feel a pressure around, my head.
Yeah, and there's a spirit speaking. I'm not sure how to make this happen over the phone, though.
Why don't you put Michael on hold and go talk with him?
So he put Michael on hold, went in, talked with him, tried to assess what was going on, and then they came back, and this is what happened.
All right. Spirit, in Jesus' name. What's your name? Spirit, in Jesus' name. Who are you? I command you in Jesus' name to speak. What is your name? Speak in Jesus' name. I command you in Jesus' name to speak. Who are you? What is your name? In Jesus' name. How long have you been controlling Michael? What?
I don't...
Be quiet, Michael.
Yeah.
Shiva, speak in Jesus' name. I command you in Jesus' name.
Be quiet, Michael.
Speak and to reveal yourself. In the name of Jesus Christ. What? How many are you? Who are you? Liar, in Jesus' name. Who are you? Okay, I'll go talk to him off air again.
Go talk to him
I want
again.
you to know.
Yeah.
Not you, Michael.
Yeah.
Be quiet, Michael. That this spirit
Be quiet,
spoke in a completely different voice, saying his name was Shiva. He had controlled Michael a long time, and they are legion inside. Is that what you said, Shiva?
So that is what happens when a minister loses control of his radio show because a demon takes over a little man named Michael who wants to find Jesus again. Apparently, when he went off the air, he talked to Michael on the phone and talked to him, and the demon, I guess, said that the demon's name was Shiva. And then he came back, and you keep hearing that in the background, wondering what it is. It's really a scary, it's a scary call. But much like what we had tonight with Michelle. Anyway, let's go to Gladys. Hi, Gladys. You're on Ground Zero in Oregon.
Hi, Clyde. I love your show. I appreciate everything that you do. Just absolutely love all your topics every night. But yeah, I wanted to be on that list of people that heard what was said when Michelle was talking. And at first, I thought it was your cue up music, your go to break music. I'm not sure what you call that in radio speak, but I thought it was that. But thinking back now, or remembering back now, it was that chanting prayer music before, that you played, I think, before you went to commercial.
Well, yeah, it was we played that. The producers play that out of Los Angeles because when we do the live show, they run everything from LA. All of my, except for my montage breaks, I control those. But all the music and it's called going to commercial music or coming back from commercial music. Going to commercial music, before it ran, apparently there were whispers in the phone call with Michelle. And I didn't hear them, and obviously the producer didn't hear them, because I'm sure that if we would have heard them, I would have stopped everything and said, don't play anything, take this out, we want to hear more. We didn't hear that. None of my other producers heard it either. And so when I brought it to their attention, they said, we didn't hear anything. But I got so many Facebook and Twitter and other things. I mean, that's the thing, is I didn't get any calls on it. except from Ian in New York. No, I mean, usually if something's heard like this, everybody hears it and they call in. I had one call, but then everything started, Twitter and Facebook went crazy, and I'm realizing, well, maybe something's up. I told my producers to go back and listen to it, and there it was, the whispers who were there.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, too. I was like, well, maybe it's the cue-up music, because, when I first heard it, I was just like, is my station going staticky? Is it the cue-up music? And I was like, well, no, I distinctly heard the word whispers. Like if there is something messing with Michelle, it's either, mimicking her to make her go even crazier or something, just like whispering the word whispers, like, oh yeah, you're talking about me, I'm going to whisper more in your ear, the word whispers.
Well, see, people heard the word whispers, but I swear before the music starts, I hear the words, hear our words. I swear I hear that. Hold on, I'm obsessing again. Hold on a second, Gladys. We're going to play that one more time. This is Michelle, and talking about the whispers and how she has a demon attached to her when Bob Larson was talking to her early in the show. Here it is.
That's the best word, but some places just have things, and this kind of thing moved progressively with us, but it had started out with it just being myself, but my kids later on kind of got involved with it, where I started hearing incoherent whispers, I guess is the right word. Like, there wasn't telling me to do anything. It just sounded like it was right up next to my ear. It'd be a very low whisper. But then it got to the point where my children were actually asking me if I called them in the room, or if I said something to them, or things like that. Do you have
now, Michelle, as you're saying, the plot thickens, and now we're hearing more things that you're telling us, and we're building a case here for there actually being something paranormal taking place, all right? I don't know how far you are from Atlanta. I'm going to be in Atlanta in January. If there's any way you could get over to see me, check out my website, call my office, let me see if we can get with you when I get into Atlanta and probe this a little more deeply. But you got to deal with this. This isn't just something that you've made up on your own. You sound sufficiently terrified.
So yeah, hear the whispers, hear our words, hear something. I don't know, Gladys. Every time someone brings it up, I have to obsess about it because I didn't hear it, and I like to hear it over and over again to figure out if I can hear any words being made. And what I hear, words like whispers, hear our words, something that wanted to get, some message it needed to get out there. I don't know what was going on.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely sounded like whispers. Oddly enough, this time around, I didn't hear it. I think maybe it's because I was trying to focus on it so much that I missed it.
So you didn't hear it this time? You heard it on the air, but you didn't hear it this time?
No.
That is so weird. You didn't hear it. I just heard it. You didn't hear it?
No, I swear to God.
And you heard it on the air. You heard it going over the air, but now you're not hearing it?
Yes. I'm saying that now. And so I'm not sure if it's a frequency change. I'm not sure what it is. I know for sure that I heard it when you guys were, live talking to her. But replaying it, I'm not sure if it's just a different volume or because I'm on my phone.
And you didn't hear it?
Bar talking to you.
No.
I did not hear it. No.
That makes it even more weird. If you can't hear it the next time, you heard it on the air, but you don't hear it now. I hear it. I didn't hear it when it was on the air. So now I'm hearing it. Oh, my God.
I'm on my car phone. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm on my car phone right now.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that. I don't know, but I know for sure I heard it. So I really hope that if this is something that's following Michelle, I hope she lights a lot of white candles. And if it's just something that's not true, maybe if she's trolling, then, good for her. But yet, honestly, I sincerely hope that.
I doubt it. If you couldn't hear it now, it's something that's frequency. It's a frequency thing. It has to be. Because if I didn't hear it, it went on a frequency on the air that I couldn't hear. I'm going to be interested in hearing the playback on SoundCloud tonight after the show to hear if you can hear it on SoundCloud. And once again, I asked the people out there who are listening now, did you hear it this time? I heard it. I keep hearing it, but I keep hearing different things every time I hear it. Gladys heard it on the air. She doesn't hear it now. What are you doing? What are you feeling? Gladys, thank you for calling. And once again, freaking me out. It's freaking me out even more. Freaking me out even more because now she didn't hear it. Dave King, did you hear it? Did you hear the whispering?
I did.
Okay, you did hear it.
I did, yes.
Okay, and the other producers are busily reviewing everything else. So, I don't know. It's been crazy tonight. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Let's go to Monica in California. Hi, Monica. Glad to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
So what's on your mind tonight?
Well, I really enjoy the show. I've learned so much, and I guess I just wanted to talk about when I was a very small child. I would have night terrors every night to the point, my room was on fire, and I had to sleep with my parents every night, and it got to be where I was 13 years old, and I was too old to sleep with them, and my mom was just like, no, I'm too old, and sometimes I would sleep on the floor because I was so scared. And then I think I was about 14, and I went to Catholic school, so, I had all of this pounded into me, but I never really believed everything that they said. I believed that, I never believed that God was punishing, and I always believed that the devil could never win over God. But getting back to when I was about 14, I was almost asleep, not all the way asleep, and I felt like there was something, like I was being possessed, and I couldn't move, I couldn't, and it went on for, it seemed like forever, but, it was only maybe a couple of minutes at the most, and I was just begging God to, please let me wake up. I couldn't scream, and it finally did end, and, it never happened again, and I went down the wrong road in life. I, wound up getting on drugs, and and I lived that life for many, many years, but by the grace of God, I just celebrated 22 years clean and sober in October, so it did happen to me one other time, and I don't know what my point is. I just know that God is real and spirits are real, and there are evil spirits out there, but I don't know why. I always felt in my heart that the devil could never win over God, and I truly believe that, and anyways, I don't know what my point is.
You're telling a story. I think your point is that you're telling the story that you've been through a lot, and you realize that, even through the possession and the turmoil and the night terrors and everything, that God is more powerful, and you found that out the hard way, and that your life has been changed through your ordeal, and hopefully it's helped you for the better.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for what you do. It's truly amazing. You have a gift. You're just a beautiful, intelligent person that you give so much to so many who get to listen to you. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for listening and supporting my program. I really appreciate it. You have a great Christmas. Okay?
You too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. More to come from you and some other interesting things that are happening tonight. 888-673-3700. We'll be back. I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. The number's to call tonight, 888-673-3700. I was just curious, has anybody seen the movie Conjuring 2? It's one where Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are real people, by the way, there was an incident that happened in 1977 where there were a series of disturbances in Enfield, England. It's north of London, and the movie, of course, is a fictional account of something that really happened, where they call it the Enfield Poltergeist Study. where there were a series of disturbances that were soon characterized as a case of poltergeist phenomena. And the children in Enfield, at this area there, the children were possessed. And the police were there, and a number of people were there, and they were able to record these children as they were possessed, the voices coming out of their bodies. And it's really creepy. I mean, Conjuring 2, of course, you know, it's fictional. But I'm going to play you, for reality's sake, I'm going to play you some children there in the Enfield incident, randomly talking, and listen to them as they are allegedly possessed by a demon. And this was the basis for the film Conjuring 2. Listen to this.
Hello. Yeah. Always just sleeping and talking. Always just sleeping and talking. Always just sleeping and talking. Wow. Wow, sleep. He's about to go to sleep and he's talking. Hello. Johnny Mark and Betty are asleep and he's talking. I wouldn't. Hello, Mr. Blackmare. Mark is asleep and I'm talking. Hello. Johnny up at our steak and we're talking. Just Margaret. Oliver. Button. Rolling through. Hang on the ground out Mark, Lee and Billy. Hello, Lee. Hang on the floor. And they've all come up. Yeah. They'll keep them all hello. Double veil, girls road, veil what they are, just good news. It's good and one like good. Hang on the floor now, sir. Been flying up here. Yeah. Straight. Veil what they That's good news. Mr. Grass, look at the ground. Lights gone off. Lights gone off. Mr. Grass, lights gone off. Lights gone off. Come on. You don't come up and smash the window. Yeah, that's good. Bang on the wall again, go on. Alright, go on. Here's what? Janet Margaret there asleep when we are coming. Well, we do fly. I go back there. To the ground. Mr. Ground. Mr. Ground.
What you're hearing are the children of Enfield. In fact, possession, poltergeist activity, the real sounds of the children speaking, the basis, or at least the story, is what basically inspired the film, The Conjuring 2. So if you ever want to check out that film, it's based on some reality, certainly bizarre. Let's go now to Shane in Connecticut. Hi, Shane. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. How's it going, bud?
It's going pretty bizarre tonight. It's pretty weird.
is it not this whole week, but it's been pretty bizarre. But I think the more bizarre, the better, honestly. But I'm out here. I'm Shane from Shane and Reed. We've called you a couple times, and usually Reed calls in. Mm-hmm. But we were listening to the show tonight, and we definitely heard something on on that part with the girl who called in and was talking about she hears whispers.
Yes.
And I realized it like really quick, because even though it was going to the segment was ending, at first I go, Reed, did you hear that? I'm like, something's like whispering or something's making a noise, and he looks at me and he goes, yeah. And then the segment started going out, so the tune that you always play, it's always kind of, you've got your different ones that you use, but that started coming in, and I go, oh, I thought the same thing that your previous caller had said, that, I thought maybe it was just like, it started, just that coming in and whatever, but
right.
I've listened to your show and heard that so many times.
Yeah.
I knew that wasn't what that was.
Well,
that was something else.
Yeah, we didn't hear it here, and people were saying, well, unless somebody was in the room whispering with her, but that would have registered on our VU meters. See, that's the thing.
Right.
The minute I started mentioning to our producers, they didn't understand.
Was he on another line? Like,
who?
We're a little curious about, like, when you had Bob Larson on the show.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And he was on, another line?
Yeah, he was on the phone on another line, yes. We have another line, and we have a carousel of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 lines, and then we have another 12 lines that we can use to double those lines. All of those lines fill up at night. So that's why it takes us forever to get to calls. So when those lines fill up, sometimes we block them off, and then if there's an overflow, we say we open lines, and if there's like less lines, we shut down certain lines so that we can have people get in. So that's how we keep the flow. That's why we get so many calls, is because we got them all full. He was on one line, and she was on the other side of the other line.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
So with that said, could Bob have heard those whispers, and then you not be able to hear it?
Apparently Bob didn't hear them, otherwise he would have paid attention to them. So Bob didn't hear them, I didn't hear them, our producers didn't hear them, the audience heard them, and then when we played it back, I could hear them, Andy could hear them, and then when I played them for Gladys tonight on the phone, she couldn't hear them now. It was almost like they weren't there again. So something's up. Something's weird.
Yeah, something's definitely up, man, and a lot of things have been just coming up this week for sure. and I can't explain. Also, we had a really good day today, and we were talking about a lot of things that just, the synchronicity popped up on your show tonight. We were literally talking about things of, Lucifer and all types of different things, kind of like our theories on it.
The paranormal bumps at Christmas. That's what I was figuring. That's what I would talk about tonight.
What's going
on? With Bob on the show, exorcisms, things of that nature, but I wasn't planning on that. And once again, I have to tell you, if the audience heard it, where you had a number of people who said they heard it, I didn't hear it. The producers didn't hear it. We heard it on playback, and then when a listener says she heard it, then when I play it for her again, she doesn't hear it. I feel a little weird. I think something.
Well, that's kind of weird too, because that kind of could maybe go back. Remember when you did the Larry, or it's like the where frequency, when you tweaked it, and then you could hear the different things.
I know what you're talking about.
Maybe it had something to do with something like that, where on the playback or something, it's not exactly like the live feed, so it might be a slight.
Well, this would also explain why some people see ghosts. It's like some people see ghosts, some don't. Some hear the EVPs, some don't. So it's an amazing thing that happened tonight. Shane, thank you for the call. I got to go. We got to take a break, and we got to get to more calls. We got so many people calling in, and I want to comment on this, and we want to get to them as soon as possible. So we're going to do that. Stay tuned. We're going to get to your call as quick as we can. We're up against the clock. 888-673-3700. It's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
More with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Okay, we're going to breeze through the calls. Let's go to Becky in Oregon. Hi, Becky. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Right on. So I wanted to talk about how the caller from Alabama, the whispers in the background, I thought it was kind of weird how this entity made itself so known so publicly.
Right.
it's pretty rare how you like hear about these entities or demons or whatever, like actually making their presence known and in such a way as well.
Well, I've been on ghost hunts. I've heard things. I've heard them very audibly talk. When we were at Fat City in Multnomah Village, man, the ghosts, you could hear them speak. One slammed down a chair and some pots and pans and said, "I will not sit down." I heard him say it to me. Sometimes they're very vocal. Other times you do EVP, you can't hear it. You play it back, it's there. I mean, sometimes you hear it when it's there. This is a situation where I did not hear it. And this is a situation where producers didn't hear it. The VUs didn't hear it. Nothing. Listeners heard it. And then, of course, we play it again. Some listeners don't hear it. It's just too weird what's going on tonight with this, in my opinion.
For sure. My boyfriend actually even heard it when it was live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He had mentioned, he thought it was actually some frequencies going on, but I thought it was also just weird how it started playing right after she started saying whispers. They started whispering right after she said the word whisper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm still trying to figure out what was said. People said they heard the word whispers. I heard it say something like, "Here are words," whatever it may be, and that to me is, I don't know. This is one for the books tonight. I swear, it's
pretty bizarre for sure. I definitely am on board with you on the whole being a message, like they're trying to relay a message to people or to her or to someone. That I think it's pretty spooky.
That kind of stuff follows Bob Larson, if you can tell when you heard the Keeper play. I mean, he brings out the demons. I don't know what it is with him, but he always does. It always seems to happen after he prays. Something happens that if there's any demons around or any spirits around somebody, they always come through. So obviously he doesn't disappoint. Becky, thank you for the call. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Yeah, weird stuff. Let's go to Larry in Oregon. Hi, Larry. You're on Ground Zero.
How you doing?
Good.
This happened when I was between 9 and 12.
Uh-huh.
I used to go down every summer and work at stay at my uncle's funeral home. I was born in this happened in Indiana. And the first thing that happened that I remember was we were sitting in the out front in the office. My parents had came down and they asked me to go pick up a chair. And this voice said, "You cannot move that chair." And I tried to pick it up, and I could not move it. I mean, it's all my strength pulling. And then finally I said, "All right, get it out of here." That was one thing. And then later on, see the spirits. You could actually see them. There was about 5 of them that went through the one little room, and then they went down right through the door that went down in the basement. Mm-hmm. Very clear, and they just kind of looked at me as they walked past. Nothing was said, no noise or nothing. Just they were there and gone. They're scared, scared the dickens out of me. And then one other time, in one of behind the office, there was a chair, a bunch of these metal, the old overstuffed chairs with the chrome legs.
Mm-hmm.
And those chairs, they started floating in the air, just come up and floating all around in the air. And when I told the guys, "Says, come look at this," when they came in, crash, everything fell to the floor. And nobody could, that had to be something going on weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then one other time there was a body on display way in the back, and there was like a scarf or something. It was floating across it, and floated around all through the air, back toward it and back toward it. And every time I would move toward it, it would move away from me. And that was some of the weird things that happened.
Well, a lot of strange things do happen, especially at funeral homes. I know a lot of morticians who say they've had a lot of weird things happen, but they tell us, they say, well, the dead will not harm you, it's the living that'll harm you. But I sometimes wonder about these energies and these types of spiritual activities that go on. A lot of the personalities that go into these spirits are the same personalities that animated the bodies that were alive. So, if you have a very angry, malignant type of spirit or malevolent spirit, they'll be malevolent. A malevolent person will have a malevolent spirit. When it's going around, it can cause trouble, wreak havoc, that kind of thing. Possessions happen all the time. We hear them. We see them. They're not just a product of movies. They're not just a product of of someone's imagination. They really happen. So, Larry, I thank you for the call. All right, quickly, Eric, you got about 45 seconds. Go.
Cool. Real quick, I want to take everything you're talking about, and you mentioned about conjuring and incantation.
Yeah.
I want to point it towards currency and how it's used to transmit. Like when they take the $100 bill and they hold it up almost as if it were a Eucharist or communion, worship money. Think about that, and think about how powerful that is when you get a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing. When they hold it up to the sky or to, the ceiling, whatever, to be able to see the metal strip in there, it's actually that same action of a sacrifice or an incantation or conjuring, which goes towards money.
Yeah, it's right. You're right about that. Have you ever wondered why, out of all the currency that's changed over time, the dollar bill still has the eye of the pyramid on it? That is a very, very powerful occult symbol that will never be removed from the dollar bill because of that very reason.
And it's raised to the heavens.
It's raised to the heavens for mammon, and it is the root of all evil, and it's one of those things that certainly is passed around a lot at Christmas time. Maybe one of the contributing factors to why people feel the way they do at Christmas time. They don't have enough money, they don't have enough time, and they get brought down into the pit of despair. And this is where all of the evil bumps around this time of year. Good night, everybody from Ground Zero. Thank you for making this show happen. We'll see you tomorrow.